Chapter 1609. Elvis sighed helplessly and stood on the spot without moving. He said calmly, I am the Wolf King. I know. I am the Wolf Queen, so what? Gu Mingming straightened her neck and roared. Leah was laughing so hard that he could not stand up straight. He placed one hand on Elvis's shoulder and pointed at Gu Mingming with the other. Have you forgotten? Gu Mingming said before, a pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years, ha ha ha. We are going to have a hard time these 3 years. Elvis sighed and repeated, Queen, I am the Wolf King. Gu Mingming was bewildered by his laughter, but she could not lose her stance. She straightened her neck and repeated, I know. So, cough. Kanwu climbed up from behind Gu Mingming and wrapped his long arms around Gu Mingming's waist. Then he turned her behind him and laughed out loud. Mum, I am an adult male. I will be laughed at if I hide behind a female to avoid a battle. Don't forget, the warriors of the wolf tribe are never afraid of battle or death. Most importantly, you're the only female in our family. Whether it's your 2 crazy partners or us 4 brothers, none of us are cowards who hide behind you when you're in danger. Instead, we're the armor that stands in front of you. You're the one who should be protected, understand? Gu Mingming was a little touched by her son's words and her eyes watered instantly. Son. Before Gu Mingming could say her touched words, Kanwu laughed suddenly and said, Moreover, Mum, you are really a little silly now. Your crazy partner is the Wolf King. If he wants to kill me, he doesn't even need to step on your corpse. He just has to stand there and stare at me and I will definitely die. Waving his fist at me proves that he has no intention of killing me. You suddenly pounced on me and made me so emotional that I am embarrassed, ha ha ha. Gu Mingming really wanted to give Kanwu a hard slap, but she clenched her fists and eventually only poked Kanwu's head. She comforted herself by saying, Biological son, you are really my biological son. Kanwu grinned foolishly and hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders, saying fawningly, Mum, seriously, why don't you get to know that new lover? Thick brows, good skin, broad shoulders, narrow waist and perky butt. Bang. Before Hu Jinwu could finish his sentence, he fell heavily onto the ground. Just as he said, Elvis did not even move his feet. He just raised his eyebrows and Kanwu was already sprawled on the ground, unable to get up. Mum. Kanwu begged for mercy and howled. Gu Mingming glanced at him coldly and said, You can just speak. Why are you so touchy? Release my son now. Elvis took a deep breath and did not let go of Kanwu. Instead, he walked to Gu Mingming's side and pulled her into his arms. He looked straight at Gu Mingming with his blue eyes and asked, Do you have any thoughts about the new lover he arranged? No. Gu Mingming answered without hesitation. These 2 words successfully pleased Elvis. Elvis nodded and let go of Kanwu. He looked down at Kanwu from above and said, Brat, if you try to shove people under my nose again, I don't mind permanently paralyzing you and making you a boneless wolf for the rest of your life. Chapter 1610. Gu Mingming facepalmed. Back then when he was still a little wolf cub, he was really cute like this. But now a 1.9 meters tall giant was rolling around on the ground making a scene. It was really unbearable to watch. Sighing, Gu Mingming said calmly, Kanwu, get up. No. Kanwu snorted angrily. Meet the new lover I prepared for you. I won't get up if you don't see him. See, I'll see him. Gu Mingming sighed, then gave Elvis and Leah a comforting look. Wasn't it just meeting someone? She just had to say she didn't like him when she saw him. Just treat it as coaxing a child. Why was there a need to be so serious? Elvis also knew that he had already hit Kanwu twice today. If he were to hit him again, Gu Mingming would really fall out with him. She had always been unscrupulously biased towards Hutta and his brothers. Tolerating him twice today was already her limit. Alright, wasn't it just meeting a new lover? Hopefully, that new lover was lucky enough to be able to take a beating. Hearing that Gu Mingming was willing to meet him, Kanwu then crawled up from the ground. Ignoring the pain from Elvis's 2 punches, he hurriedly waved to the side and howled. Then someone slowly walked out from behind the tree. He tried his best to make himself look calm, but his stiff expression and hands that did not know where to place them showed how uneasy he was. Gu Mingming could not help but smile bitterly when she saw who it was. She looked at Kanwu and asked, Victor is the new lover you introduced to me? If I remember correctly, the last time I left Zacharias, I had already clearly rejected him. No matter what, Gu Mengmeng would not have any other thoughts towards a little tiger who was about the same age as her own son. She did not forget that the first time she saw this little tiger, he was rolling on the ground with Kanwu, fighting fiercely. In Gu Mengmeng's eyes, Victor was just like her son's classmate. Once again, Gu Mengmeng was not a strange auntie, she was not a pedophile. Kanwu pulled Victor and forcefully pushed him in front of Gu Mengmeng. He whispered into his ear, "Let me tell you, this is really your last chance. If you don't grab hold of it, my mother will really fly away. As your brother, I'm willing to do anything for you. Look, I didn't even flinch when my father beat me up. If you dare to flinch, I'll bite you every time I see you in the future, even if I bite you to death." Victor was originally very nervous, but he relaxed quite a bit after being mocked by Kanwu. He glanced sideways at Kanwu and said, "Tisk, how can you speak to your elders like that? Who can you bite to death with that mouth of baby teeth of yours? If I don't fight back and let you bite me, I'm afraid your teeth will fall off." Kanwu's temper flared up and he wanted to hit someone, but after looking at Gu Mengmeng, he tolerated it. She gave Victor a shove and said, "You can pretend to be an elder in front of me after you've chased after my mom. Hurry up, don't dawdle." Victor also gave Kanwu a shove, then tidied up his beast skin dress. He looked up at Gu Mengmeng and said, "We meet again. I'm actually quite good. Why don't you try? You can abandon me if you're not satisfied. I won't blame you." Try. These two words shocked Gu Mengmeng so much that she felt like she was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. How could she try this? Gu Mengmeng felt a mouthful of blood rolling in her chest. She really wanted to vomit it on Victor's face. Did this child's head get squeezed by a door? Chapter 16:11. Don't reject me. Victor suddenly looked up. Panic and uneasiness could be seen on his face without any psychological knowledge. "I don't want much. I just want to be by your side. I won't force you, because I will stay behind. You just have to bring me along wherever you go. My hunting skills are very good. I can help you hunt whatever you want to eat. Moreover, my original form as a tiger, it's quite impressive. After all, I'm the king of the forest. It's cool to be your mount." What about me? Kanwu was infuriated when he heard that. He kicked Victor from behind and said, "I'm helping you pave the way so that you can keep my mother. You haven't even taken the position yet, and you're already betraying me? Scram, scram, scram. Didn't you see what level my two fathers are at? Do you even have a chance to hunt? King of the jungle. There are two beast kings right here, and you're just a Hello Kitty in front of them, huh? I don't need a stepfather who won't help me keep my mother." Humph. Gu Mengmeng watched as Kanwu and Victor fooled around. She was not angry and just felt that it was quite good. She was still worried that Kanwu would be lonely when Qixian was no longer by his side. After all, it was very rare to have only one child in the beast world. She was really worried that Kanwu would be alone after she left. But now it seemed that although he and Victor were fooling around, their relationship seemed to be very good. This way she could rest assured. After Kanwu sent Victor flying with a kick, he leaned forward and stared at Gu Mengmeng. "Mother, this tiger is not good. It's normal that you don't like him. Why don't we change to another one? What do you think of Master Burke? I heard that he has a face that's very similar to the one you like. I reckon that with his capabilities, he would be willing to be a substitute by your side. Why don't you consider him?" Gu Mengmeng sighed and patted Kanwu's shoulder. "Kanwu, no matter where I am, I will always be your mother. You won't lose me." Kanwu's face darkened. He lowered his head and no longer spoke. Of course, he knew that no matter where Gu Mengmeng went, she would always be his mother. Moreover, he did not grow up sticking by Gu Mengmeng's side every day. He was not a mama's boy who could not survive without his mother. But this time, it was really different. He just felt that if he did not make his mother stay, he might not be able to see her again in this lifetime. This premonition made him very uneasy. He was so uneasy that he wanted his mother to stay no matter what. But his stubbornness was putting his mother in a difficult position, wasn't it? He shouldn't have mentioned Borg. He knew that his mother was most afraid of owing emotional debts. It wasn't as if his mother didn't know what Burke had done for his mother. It was just that one of them pretended to be mute, and the other pretended to be blind. This was a tacit understanding between the two of them, and he shouldn't be the one to break the ice. Mom, I know. Seeing Kanwu's dejected look, Gu Mingming's heart ached again. She hugged Kanwu in her arms and comforted him. Even if I am not by your side, I still love you. I know that you have good friends by your side, and will have a gentle lover in the future. So I am very reassured. You too, you have to know that Elvis and Leah will always be by my side. They will take good care of me, so you don't have to worry, understand? Kanwu nodded, like an eggplant that had been hit by frost. Chapter 16:12. Actually, he was already an adult. When other males transformed into half-orcs, they should have left their parents and started their own family, but he still lived under his parents' protection for 3 to 4 years. It was not that he did not have the ability, it was just that he was like a kite. Because he was tied to a string, he knew that even if the wind stopped blowing, he would still have a place to return to, so he dared to fly around the sky without any fear. But when the string suddenly broke, he was at a loss. If he had known earlier, he would not have dreamed of being a hero. He should have stayed by Gu Mingming's side obediently. It did not matter if others laughed at him as a useless person, he should have cherished the time he could spend with his mother. But now, it was too late to regret. Kanwu lowered his head and did not make a sound. Victor tried to get closer to Gu Mingming, but was stopped by Oratin. The reason was very simple. Leah whispered into Oratin's ear. Our family only needs one tiger. In other words, if Victor caught Gu Mingming's eye, Oratin's rice bowl would be gone. Snatching a rice bowl from a foodie. You are really courageous. While Oratin and Victor were having an in-depth discussion, Elvis had already carried Gu Mingming back to their previous cave. Placing Gu Mingming at the entrance of the cave, Gu Mingming held Elvis's hand on her left and Li's hand on her right as they entered the cave. Everything here was the most familiar. When she first came here, she was like a blind person. She could only move a little near the entrance of the cave, and could not see anything else after entering. On the right side of the cave was the cloakroom that Elvis had dug for her after she came, because she said that it would be too wasteful to throw away such a good fur coat after wearing it once. So all the clothes here were her old ones. They were made of different materials and styles, all neatly arranged. It was obvious that someone had taken care of them meticulously. Because of Cole, Gu Mingming had not returned to Saint Nazaire for 2 years, so who was the one taking care of this cave for her? Gu Mingming looked back and her gaze landed on Barit, who was standing at the entrance of the cave. Barit frowned and chuckled. Am I not the messenger's guardian? The messenger is not around, so I have to take good care of her things. Gu Mingming returned an apologetic gaze and chuckled. Barit, these few years it's been hard on you. It's what I should do. Who asked me to owe you? Barit's gaze was filled with melancholy. There was an indescribable bitterness, but also an indescribable pleasure. Gu Mingming shook her head and said, No, Barit, you don't owe me anything. Oakley's incident was planned by Cole, and it has nothing to do with you. You don't have to blame yourself for it, and you don't have to repay any debt because of it. Barit lowered his head and avoided Gu Mingming's gaze. His lips were pressed into a straight line. Unable to say the words, I just need a reason to protect you. Gu Mingming patted Barit's shoulder and said, I'm leaving, you should let it go too. The 16 valued females in Saint Nazaire are the first beauties of each tribe. I have someone I like. Barit still did not look at Gu Mingming, his eyes staring straight at the ground. Chapter 16:13. Barit did not look up the entire time. He opened his mouth, but the words that had been swirling in his chest were eventually crushed and reshaped between his teeth. In the end, it became an unrecognizable Barit. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief at the fact that she had a sweetheart. She had already harmed Snake and delayed Gregory. If she dragged Barit into this, she was afraid that she would not be able to sort out this list of emotions even if she used 1,000 years. But she did not realize that Barit's gaze, which had been staring at the ground the entire time, was looking at her shadow. After she turned around, Barit then looked up. The deep affection in his eyes was as deep as the ocean, with turbulent undercurrents. I did not lose you because I never got you. So to me, losing is an extravagant term. But it's all right, as long as you can be happy. I don't care about anything else. If you want to fly, then fly. I'll stay where I am and guard your things for you. No matter when you're tired and want to rest. Everything here will be the same as when you left. You'll always have a familiar home, a familiar Barit, waiting for you at the same spot. That night, Gu Mengmeng gathered the 16 valued females for a bonfire party. They talked about all the interesting things that happened in Saint Nazaire in the past 2 years when Gu Mengmeng was not around. When Gu Mengmeng heard the 16 valued females praising Barit, her heart calmed down even more. Matters between women were never easy to resolve, but Barit was unanimously praised by the 16 valued females. Everyone said that he was a warm man who treated everyone especially well. Gu Mengmeng jokingly said that Barit was like the central air conditioner of Saint Nazaire, but Barit just smiled without saying a word. He was nice to the 16 valued females only because they were chosen by Gu Mengmeng. And every time he mentioned the 16 valued females, Gu Mengmeng would always have a proud look on her face. How was he warm to the 16 valued females? He was just guarding the things that she was proud of. It was no different from guarding the old clothes in that cave. Gu Mengmeng stayed in Saint Nazaire for a full 2 months, walking through every inch of the land. It was the salt lake where Elvis had first met her. She had molested Elvis here and tried to kill herself here. She had made a ruckus there for a long time. The platform of the deity's punishment when she first met Leah. At that time, she had even called Leah Beauty and Leah Daddy. She had also saved Barit, who was on the brink of death there, and even fought with Nina there. Because of a nosebleed, Sandy had caused such a ruckus that she thought she was going to die. And the territory where she had dug potatoes and sweet potatoes. She had visited every place once with Elvis and Leah, recalling the scenes that they had experienced over the years. Everything that she had felt tragic back then had become sweet now. 2 months later, Gu Mengmeng had planned to make a trip to the Mecca desert before winter arrived and settle down the heart of the desert. Then she could die without any worries. But before she walked out of Saint Nazaire, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Gu Mengmeng clutched her stomach and her face instantly turned pale. Large beads of sweat started dripping down her face, and she was in so much pain that she could hardly breathe. Chapter 16:14. So when Gu Mengmeng furrowed her brows, he immediately knew what was going on. Elvis' original form. Elvis panicked and his mind went blank, completely unable to think. He could only rely on their years of tacit understanding to reveal his original form, without saying a word when he heard Lee's words. Leah placed Gu Mengmeng on Elvis's back, and did not rush Elvis to return to the cave. Instead, he said, "Stand firmly and don't tremble. Once Gu Mengmeng's first labor pain is over, carry her back to the cave immediately." Elvis did not even dare to nod, and only blinked his eyes to show that he understood. He did not forget the pain of childbirth that the beast deity, oh no, Wang Xiaoxin made him experience in the illusion realm. Whenever he thought of that pain tormenting Gu Mengmeng, Elvis felt as if his heart was being stabbed by knives. If it was possible, he was willing to bear the pain of childbirth 10 times in exchange for Gu Mengmeng's current suffering. But unfortunately, this was the only thing in this world that he could not do for her. Other than feeling heartache, there was nothing else he could do. I'm fine. Gu Mengmeng obviously knew what kind of torture her pain was to Elvis and Leah. She tried her best to smile. Even though her hair was instantly drenched in sweat and stuck to her face, she still tried her best to smile. She was afraid that these two fellows would go crazy and say something crazy like they were going to crush the child. Every time she gave birth, she had to fight her husband with all her might. This feeling was really terrible. Don't talk, conserve your energy and stabilize your breathing. Leah frowned. He was really very conflicted about Gu Mengmeng's stomach. This was the child he had been looking forward to for 5 years. Even though it was not born yet, it was still a piece of his heart. But this piece of his heart was tormenting Gu Mengmeng so much. He could not deny that he had the urge to personally cut it off. Gu Mengmeng nodded and did as she was told. She adjusted her breathing according to the frequency of Li's raising and lowering hands. The pain gradually lessened and Gu Mengmeng finally revealed a big smile. She said, "It's all right, I can bear it. It's not that painful." Before Gu Mingming finished her sentence, Elvis had already shot out like an arrow. Before Gu Mingming could scream, Elvis had already placed her on the beast's skin bed in the cave. Gu Mingming did not know if she should say it out loud. Bringing a pregnant woman. No, bringing a pregnant woman to ride a roller coaster was inhumane. Inhumane. Seeing that Gu Mingming did not look well, Elvis was extremely worried. He held Gu Mingming's hand with concern and asked, "What's wrong? Does it hurt again?" "Huh." Gu Mingming snorted and turned her head away, not wanting to talk to this idiotic husky. Once Leah entered the house, he immediately asked Elvis to start a fire, while he quickly cooked all the food in the house, in preparation to replenish Gu Mingming's energy at any time. Oriton received Lee's orders and brought the males of Saint Nazir out to hunt. Even though the males of Saint Nazir would always be out hunting at this time of the year, and the surrounding tribes were already used to it, but this time, the two messengers had left their caves and the males were in a killing frenzy. No matter how big or small they were, they would not let anything go. Even the ferocious beasts that they would never touch during their hunts in the past were now ready to risk their lives and pounce on them, biting them to death and dragging them back to Saint Nazir. Chapter 16:15. This caused the surrounding tribes to be in a state of panic. Could it be that Saint Nazir was stocking up on food in preparation for a war with someone? But wasn't Cole already dead? Could it be that another great demon king had appeared? The surrounding tribes tried to send people to Saint Nazir to investigate, but the wild wolves and foxes surrounded Saint Nazir so tightly that not even a fly could pass through, not to mention the orcs. Originally, the orcs did not care about wild beasts, but, firstly, there were too many of them, and secondly, these two types of wild beasts were obviously under the orders of the two beast kings. If they fought with them, it would be equivalent to directly challenging the beast kings. Haha, looking at the ferocious Saint Nazir tribesmen pouncing on their prey today. Which tribe could withstand such a powerful attack? Even now, the two beast kings and the great messenger had yet to appear. Hence, the crowd could only return to their own tribes resentfully, and started to actively set up defenses, but did not dare to snatch prey from the Saint Nazir tribesmen at this time. Actually, there was no need for such a crazy hunt. The main reason was that there was a little loophole in the transmission. Leah told Oriton, "Prepare food to replenish Mingming's energy, so that she won't be exhausted halfway through giving birth." "What will happen if she is exhausted?" Oriton asked. Leah said faintly, "2 lives in 1 body." Of course, Leah would not allow such a thing. By then, even if Gu Mingming would fight him to the death, he would definitely kill this daughter with his own hands to protect her. But Oriton did not know what Leah was thinking. He was a fool. 2 lives in 1 body, how could that be? Hence, he hurried out to make arrangements. His originally expressionless face now furrowed his brows, and with a heavy tone he told everyone, "The great messenger needs food, or else she will die." Hence, Saint Nazir exploded. The great messenger will die because of a lack of food. How could that be? Barit did not believe it at first, and wanted to see what was going on. But just as he reached the entrance of the cave, he smelled a strong scent of blood. He recognized this scent. It was Gu Mingming's blood. Previously, when she was plucking potatoes, she cut her hand and he was there too, so he recognized the scent of her blood. Barit's mind jolted as he turned around and ran without a second word, taking the lead in hunting for Gu Mingming. This attitude greatly agitated the males who were already agitated to begin with. Damn it, if they let the messenger of the beast deity die in their own tribe because of a lack of food, as males, they would not have the face to live anymore. Not to mention that taking care of females was the natural duty of males, taking care of the messenger of the beast deity was the duty of everyone in the beast world. Just Gu Mingming alone, who in the entire Saint Nazir had not received her grace. Which one of them had not benefited from her before? It was all thanks to Gu Mingming that the females in their families could comfortably survive the 2 seasons of winter and drought. Even if Gu Mingming was not the messenger of the beast deity, they would never let her die from a lack of food just because she was a person. And this kind of agitation would affect each other, just like adding firewood to a burning fire continuously. It would be strange if the fire did not burn even more. Gu Mingming was tormented by the labor pains in the cave. Without the tear of the beast deity, her hearing was not as good as before, so she did not know that there were rumors outside that she was about to starve to death and needed all the food in the beast world to survive. If she had heard it, she would probably be so angry that she would fart her child out. Aside from the topic, this was the last time Susu told everyone about Heaven's vision in the beast world. Chapter 16:16. Leah made use of the time when Gu Mengmeng was not in pain to start a second fire to boil water. At this moment, an uninvited guest appeared. It was a familiar face, Joshua, the current witch doctor of Saint Nazir, the first-level ape who had wooed Gu Mengmeng before. He was already a first-level orc when he wooed Gu Mengmeng. 2 years had passed and he was still a first-level orc. Let me do it. Joshua took the firewood from Lee's hands and threw it into the fire. You. Leah was stunned for a moment but still nodded. After all, it was normal for a witch doctor to guard the door when a female was giving birth. Even Leah had guarded the entrance of the cave when Nina was giving birth. It was just that Nina was the one laying the eggs back then, so it didn't take much effort for her to lay them. Although she smashed all the eggs in the nest and none of them survived, the rule of a witch doctor guarding the door of a female giving birth really existed. Moreover, the bellies of the 16 valued females in Saint Nazir had been unusually neat for the past 2 years. Every year, a few of them would get pregnant and give birth. As a result, Joshua, the newly appointed witch doctor, had more experience in delivering babies than Leah. So, since Joshua was the witch doctor of Saint Nazir now, he should naturally be the one guarding the door. Moreover, there were not many males in the family and they did not have enough manpower. Although Joshua was not strong in battle, his medical skills were not bad. Moreover, Leah had mostly learned theoretical knowledge in the illusion realm, and it was all theoretical knowledge. It was his first time going into battle personally. Leaving someone with actual combat experience at the door would at least be of help. Moreover, that idiot Oriton had already brought everyone to hunt. Now he could not even catch one to stay back to help. Looking at the mountain of animal carcasses in front of his house, Leah really wanted to pinch Oriton to death. But rather than letting this idiot stay in the cave to create trouble, it was better to let him go out and go crazy. Anyway, winter was coming and these prey would not go to waste. After Gu Mengmeng gave birth, he would arrange for these prey to be distributed to the 16 valued females to tide over the winter. Anyway, as long as that glutton Oriton did not come back at this time to create trouble and harm Gu Mengmeng, Leah did not care about anything else. With Joshua in charge of boiling pots of water at the entrance, Leah had the time to accompany Gu Mengmeng in the cave. Her labor pains were getting more intense. Based on the childbirth knowledge he learned in the illusion realm, Leah knew that it was not long before Gu Mengmeng gave birth. Gu Mengmeng, who had experienced childbirth once, knew that her precious daughter could not wait to see her. Gu Mengmeng knew that her baby daughter could not wait to see her. It was just that Gu Mengmeng had never thought that foxes were so much bigger than wolves. Why did it feel even more painful than when Kanwu was born? The labor pain came again and Gu Mengmeng screamed her lungs out. She gripped the beast's skin beneath her with all her might and clenched her teeth, concentrating all her strength on her abdomen to push the child downwards. Elvis hugged her head, just like what Leah did when she gave birth to Huda and his brothers. His blue eyes were filled with heartache, as if a blunt knife was constantly cutting his heart. Elvis brought his hand to Gu Mengmeng's mouth and said, "Bite me if it hurts." He remembered that Gu Mengmeng had taught Colin this when Sandy was giving birth. Chapter 16:17. This was clearly not a fox's head but a baby's head. Ah! Gu Mengmeng screamed in pain. As she exerted force, the baby's little face was already exposed. Leah wanted to lick the placenta, but, it was not a fox and did not have a placenta. How could he lick it? His tongue was already out, but he froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. Elvis glared at Leah and said, "What time is it now? Why are you still in a daze?" Leah did not know how to describe his feelings at that moment. He had been through many storms but now he was at a loss of what to do. He had all the theoretical knowledge but he was not mentally prepared. For the past 10 months, he had always thought that he would be delivering a little fox, But this little fox was quite different from what he imagined. Ah! Gu Mengmeng exerted force again, and the baby slipped out. Leah was shocked and hurriedly caught his little princess. His eyes brimmed with tears as he looked at Gu Mengmeng, who was gasping for air like a fish out of water. He choked with sobs and said, "Mengmeng, it's been hard on you, thank you. I love you." "Don't talk nonsense," Gu Mengmeng said weakly. "Bite off the umbilical cord, tie a knot, then carry her for me to see." Yeah. Leah did as he was told, using warm water to wash the child clean before wrapping her up in a soft beast skin and placing her beside Gu Mengmeng. He kissed her face and said, "This is the first time I've seen a newborn that is a complete female, and this most special child is our daughter." Leah nodded and said. Gu Mengmeng smiled as she looked at the little red person in her arms. Her motherly instincts were radiating. Gu Mengmeng kissed her precious daughter, then looked at Leah and asked, "Aren't you going to kiss her?" Leah shook his head and said, "Other than you, I won't kiss anyone else." Gu Mengmeng chided, "Pretentious." But she did not say anything else. Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng's delivery was rather smooth, and heaved a long sigh of relief. He handed the baby over to Leah, then laid Gu Mengmeng down properly. As they tidied up the messy room, they said, "Maybe now is the best chance." Leah was taken aback. He looked at the newborn baby girl in his arms, feeling extremely reluctant. Before they met, he could ruthlessly say that he wanted to kill her to protect Gu Mengmeng. But after witnessing her birth with his own eyes, Leah felt that he now had two hearts, one for Gu Mengmeng and the other for the little princess. No matter which one he cut out, it would still hurt. But Elvis was right. Thanks to Oratin, the entire beast world now knew that Gu Mengmeng's life was in danger. This was the best opportunity. After all, even acting couldn't be that realistic. Turning back to look at Gu Mengmeng, who had fallen into a deep sleep on the bed, then at the soft little child in his arms, Leah hesitated for a moment before nodding his head. "Kanwa happens to be here. Let him take care of this little sister." Lee's gaze was fixated on his youngest daughter's face. She had her eyes shut and was sleeping soundly like her mother, completely unaware that she had to be separated from her daughter the moment she was born. Every word that Leah said was like a sharp needle that pierced his heart. This child was equally precious to Elvis. As long as it was Gu Mengmeng's child, it would be his treasure. How could he bear to part with this little baby? Chapter 16:18. Leah thought for a moment and nodded. "Then let's discuss it with Gu Meng when she wakes up." Elvis didn't say anything else, and just continued to pack up the things in the room. Giving birth consumed a large amount of Gu Mengmeng's energy. Without the protection of the tear of the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng's body was extremely weak. After sleeping for a full day and night, Gu Mengmeng slowly opened her eyes. And this one day and one night was known as unconsciousness in the beast world. Elvis and Leah discussed their plan with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng couldn't bear to part with her newborn daughter, but she also knew that this was the best opportunity. If she didn't make use of it, it would be extremely difficult for her to escape in the future. So the next day, Gu Mengmeng sat at the entrance of the cave with Elvis carrying her while her face was pale and weak. Strangely, there was no wind within a kilometer radius around Gu Mengmeng. Obviously, this was Gregory's protection. Gu Mengmeng called Kanwu over and handed her daughter to him. She instructed him to bring her to the Snake King Valley and hand her over to Qi Xian. Kanwu looked at his mother's weak state, and his eyes turned red. He clenched his teeth and couldn't say a word. In the end, he just nodded his head cautiously. Gu Mengmeng's heart was filled with guilt. She made up her mind to explain everything to her son after the act. A mother faking her own death to deceive her son. Haha, there shouldn't be a mother more mischievous than her in this world. But she had no choice now. The more sorrowful Kanwu acted, the more real the news of Gu Mengmeng's death would be. Anyway, it was difficult for females to give birth. Many females had died giving birth to females, so the credibility was not low in the first place. Coupled with Oratin's hard work, no one would suspect that Gu Mengmeng had a difficult birth. In front of everyone, Gu Mengmeng's hands dropped and she acted out the beauty fades. It was a beautiful death. Elvis and Leah released their Beast King aura at the same time and pretended to lose control. They did not do it for any other reason than to prevent others from coming forward to cry. As long as they neared, they would realize that Gu Mingming's tightly shut eyelids were trembling and her eyeballs were rolling nonstop. Then all their efforts would be wasted. After pressing everyone onto the ground, Gu Mingming hurriedly carried her little daughter in her arms, while Elvis carried Kanwu and Oratin on his shoulders. Leah carried Gu Mingming and her mother, and quietly left the tribe that the two of them had created. Gu Mingming stood at the entrance of Saint Nazaire, and could not help but look back. This was the hard work of Elvis and Leah, and also the tribe that she had been working hard to protect for the past 5 years. This place contained too many memories between them. There were joys and sorrows. Those small matters that did not matter in the past had now become precious memories. It was as if they weighed 1,000 pounds, causing Gu Mingming to be unable to move her feet. What's wrong? Elvis sensed the sadness on her face and asked with heartache. Gu Mingming looked up and met Elvis's blue eyes. Her voice was a little choked up as she said, "Hubby, are we going to have no home from today onwards?" In these 5 years, Gu Mingming had stayed in many places, be it the cave at the Snake King Valley or Sauter's Stone Castle. But only this cave at Saint Nazaire could be called home by her. Chapter 1619. But it was different this time. She was really going to leave. A person who was already dead probably wouldn't be able to come back. Elvis rubbed Gu Mingming's little head. He was already used to her melancholy. He kissed her face and said gently, "Wherever you are, that's where our home is. Don't be sad, Leah and I will always accompany you." Gu Mingming was taken aback for a moment, then she smiled and nodded. Yeah, the cave was not her home. Only being with Elvis and Leah was the feeling of home. If not for the two of them, what was the point of her guarding the cave? Although those memories of the past were precious, they would not disappear just because she left Saint Nazaire. It was just that without those traces of remembrance around her, she might slowly forget many things. But so what? As long as the two of them were still by her side, they would have even more precious memories, right? With that thought, Gu Mingming's mood became much better. She hugged Elvis's neck and kissed his face, saying, "Yeah, you're right." Passing by the lake where she first met Elvis, Gu Mingming suddenly laughed. "Huh?" Elvis asked her with a single syllable, asking her what she was laughing at. Gu Mingming said, "I feel that you guys are right to call me a little liar. I seem to have been lying since the first day I came to the beast world." Elvis frowned and asked, "What did you lie to me that day?" Gu Mingming sniffled and smiled. "I said that I would not take responsibility. But look at me now." Gu Mingming tugged at her collar and said, "Not only did I get a partner, I even gave birth to a son for you. What happened to the prodigal image of only flirting and not taking responsibility? I didn't know that I had such a talent for lying." Elvis also smiled and pinched her little face, saying, "In this lifetime, I only ask you to keep one promise. As for the rest, I don't mind. Moreover, you lied especially well when you said not taking responsibility." Of course, Gu Mingming knew that Elvis and Leah wanted her to keep her promise. As long as she said not abandoning them, as long as she did not go back on her word, no matter what she did, they would forgive her. Wang Xiaoxin said beast deity doesn't lie. This is the biggest lie. I think it makes a lot of sense. If you want to be an honest beast deity in the future, you should start from never saying I don't lie. Gu Mingming giggled. Elvis kissed her little face and said, "All right." With the wild fox and wolves leading the way, Gu Mingming and said, Saint Nazaire's death. Gu Mingming's death. Saint Nazaire had attracted the attention of most people, making it easier for Gu Mingming and the rest to move around. When they returned to the Snake King Valley, Qixian had already prepared a large amount of food in Snake's Cave. When he saw Gu Mingming, he smiled knowingly and said, "I knew that you would come back before winter, so I have already prepared the food. You can stay here in peace. I will guard the entrance, and I guarantee that no one will disturb you during the winter." Gu Mingming shook her head and handed the little girl in her arms to Qixian. "We are here to let you take care of her." I to say, to. Chapter 1620. Her name is Danya. Gu Mingming replied, Qixian carried Danya while smiling and playing with her little chin. He called out softly, "Little Danya, I am your second brother. Come, call me second brother, alright? MMM. It would be a miracle if a newborn could speak. But although little Danya could not speak, she knew how to smile. She grinned, revealing her pink gums. Her eyes narrowed into two crescent moons, and there were two adorable save-me's on her chubby little face. Her smile melted Qixuan's heart. Younger sister was a magical thing. She had trained the young master of the stray beasts, who was full of hostility, into a domestic dog. Many years later, when little Danya came of age, the ones guarding the tower for her would not be her first partner or suitor, but her four brothers at the four corners of the tower. As a result, little Danya, who had a sister complex, could not successfully date anyone after she came of age. All her suitors were chased away by her four brothers. Her four brothers even said righteously, "Our younger sister must not mate with a male who is inferior to us." Only the heavens knew that her four brothers were the most famous males in the beast world. Her eldest brother had an extraordinary aura, as if he was the ruler of the world. Third brother's intelligence was unparalleled. He could control the curtains and determine victory from 1,000 miles away. Many enemies had not even seen his face, and were already trapped in a prison, unable to move an inch. Fourth brother was extraordinarily brave and fierce, like a war god descending into the abyss. Just one look at his pair of vicious eyes would make one shudder and retreat without a fight. Not to mention the second brother, he was unusually handsome but full of demonic aura. He never acted according to the rules and killed according to his whims. Most importantly, he was just a third-level orc, but had the ability to make fifth-level orcs tremble in fear. No one had ever dared to be impudent in front of him, and no one dared to test his unfathomable abilities. He was the master of the stray beasts who made everyone tremble in fear. He looked down on the world and no one dared to go against him. It was these four devils who acted cute and silly in front of little Danya. As long as they could make their younger sister smile, they would not hesitate to wag their tails and beg for pity. As a result, little Danya became the envy of all the females in the beast world. It was not because her mother was the messenger of the beast deity, nor was it because her father was the beast king. It was because she had four good brothers who doted on her to the bone and spoiled her to the heavens. Of course, this was a story for the future, so let's not talk about it for now. He only said that after Gu Mingming handed Danya to Qixian and Camwood to take care of, she brought Elvis, Leah and Oriton to the Mecca Desert before winter arrived. This was currently the safest place, and it was also the last stop for the seven treasures. Because no one would set foot in this demonic territory that lacked food and water. Elvis used the beast skin to cover Gu Mengmeng as the sand danced in the air. Because Wang Xiaoxin had left and Gu Mengmeng had inherited the position of beast deity, many erased memories had returned to her mind. For example, Permitha and Fedatin City. Spring has passed, the hair has turned white, the thoughts are lonely, and a strand of sorrow is cut off to cover the eyes to blind people. Today I'm heartbroken. Today we're on different sides. There's no hope for us to meet again in this life. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and walked in the desert. Gu Mengmeng leaned on Elvis's shoulder and sang softly. They stood outside the once forgotten Fedatin city again. Half of the broken walls had been buried by the sand, but in the center of the city, a faint red light emitted a charming temptation. Aside from the topic, why was Qixian so strong? Did everyone still remember the leaf that floated into his head? Chapter 1621. Gu Mengmeng followed the light, and indeed saw the blossoming red spider lily. Gu Mengmeng reached out to pluck it, and the flower fell into her palm with a slight twist. This was Snake's heart. Do you still want to build a dragon gate in here to sell human meat bun? Elvis looked at the bewitching red flower, and frowned with a bitter smile. He would never be able to win Snake in this lifetime, right? Back in the Snake King Valley, Snake once said that he was so weak. He thought that he would be able to turn the tables after becoming a beast king, but in the end, he was saved a second time. 1,000 years later, when Snake returned, would he still be able to keep his position as the first partner? He smiled helplessly. 1,000 years later, there should be a battle. But if two beast kings fought, it would be hard to determine the winner. Gu Mengmeng did not know that Elvis's thoughts had already drifted to 1,000 years later. She just smiled and nodded, saying, "Yes, I want to build a dragon gate in here. I don't sell human meat bun. I just want to wait for someone who has not returned." "All right," Elvis replied with a simple word, then kissed Gu Mengmeng's cheek, saying, "Leah and I will help you look for the green stone. We will stay here until the dragon gate is built. How about that?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and agreed with a smile. Leah and Elvis had both gone out to search for green stones, while Gu Mengmeng sat on the broken wall, swinging her feet and humming Sorrow of Separation. Looking at the desolate desert, she felt like a hero going on a wild trip outside the Great Wall. Oriton glanced sideways at the heart of the desert in Gu Mengmeng's hands. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "I will guard this for you." "You?" Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and looked at Oriton. Oriton nodded and said, "Leah told me before that I am the most suitable person to guard it. That's why Leah brought me along." Gu Mengmeng looked at Oriton in confusion. Oriton habitually put on a poker face, but his gaze was exceptionally sincere. He said, "I was born in the Mecca Desert and am the only orc that is suitable to live here. If I am not here to guard it, then no one can do this for you. After all, I'm also your guardian beast. It's only right for me to guard something for you. Besides, it was good for me. I didn't have to mate to break through level 3, and I might even reach demigod level like Higgin. An immortal body, how tempting was that? And Leah said that as long as I am willing to help you guard the heart of the desert, he will let Qixian arrange for stray beasts to deliver food to me." After saying so much, the last sentence should be the main point. Gu Mengmeng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She looked at Oriton and said, "Have you thought it through? It's very lonely to live here alone." Oriton let out a cold laugh from his throat, but his expression did not change at all as he said, "Before I met you, not only was I alone, but I was also pushed out wherever I went. Later, when I became stronger, I started to be harassed endlessly. To me, it was a wonderful thing to be alone and not be disturbed. Besides, I don't want to lose any more friends." Chapter 16:22. Oriton seemed to know what Gu Mengmeng was thinking about. He patted her shoulder and said, "How do you know that the person who comes 1,000 years later will not fall in love with me? Who knows? I might be the next snake, meeting a special person 1,000 years later, giving color and meaning to my life." The next snake. Ha! Wouldn't his heart be ripped out? Furthermore, Gu Mengmeng looked down at the red spider lily in her hands. Not only would his heart be ripped out, he would also end up in a messy state and sleep for 1,000 years. Becoming the next snake was really not a happy ending. Moreover, although Snake did not know how to express himself, he unexpectedly fit the image of a domineering CEO in the modern world. The chances of little girls liking him was much higher than Oriton, who only had food in his eyes. He had a body full of fur, but he did not know how to make use of his advantages like Leah. Gu Mengmeng did not even dare to think about Oriton acting cute. In the beast world, where the ratio of males and females was so disparate, did Oriton really have a way to fight against the other males and stand out from the crowd to win the favor of the next messenger of the beast deity? What if the next messenger of the beast deity did not like his dull character? Or, what if the next messenger of the beast deity did not know how to cook? By then, even if the other party grew a flower, Oriton would not be willing to mate with her, right? What did he say previously? Oh, right, he said, "I am not interested in females, I am only interested in food." Gu Mengmeng really felt that the chances of Oriton successfully breaking free from being single after 1,000 years was extremely slim. Oriton looked at Gu Mengmeng's changing expression and did not know what she was thinking about. He could only continue to persuade her. "I am not as good with words as Leah, but I know that it is the most suitable arrangement for me to guard this flower." As Oriton said that, he knelt down on one knee with his palms facing upwards. Elvis told Gu Mengmeng that this was an expression of submission from the orcs. Oriton had never treated Gu Mengmeng like this before. He had really thought it through and was willing to guard this flower and spend a long 1,000 years in the Mecca Desert. Gu Mengmeng sighed in exasperation. She could only think that although she did not have a son like Snake, She would probably have to drag the next messenger of the beast deity to watch a few television dramas with her in order to plan for Oriton. However, Overbearing Senior Falls in Love with Me was, after all, a youth romance movie. In the future, Oriton would be starring in a culinary show like A Bite of China? Gu Mingming expressed her worries and felt immense pressure. Looking at Oriton kneeling by her feet, looking as if he would not get up until she agreed, Gu Mingming finally sighed and gave in. Oriton, thank you. Gu Mingming handed the red spider lily to Oriton. Oriton placed the red spider lily into his chest, right in front of Gu Mingming. Then he smiled for the first time in his life. You don't have to thank me. You just have to urge Leah to fulfill his promise and send me food. Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment before replying. Oriton, do you know? You look very good when you smile. Oriton was stunned by Gu Mingming's words. He touched the corner of his lips and said, Looks like I have made the right choice to guard this flower. Chapter 16:23. Gu Mingming tore off a piece of beast skin, wrote the word wine on it and hung it on the door. She then got Elvis to use his sharp claws to carve a couplet on the green stones on both sides of the door. The first couplet was Chasing after the wind and the moon is the order of the king, while the second couplet was Morning clouds, evening rain, horse legs, people's hearts. This couplet was written on the door in Maggie Chung's version of Dragon Gate Inn. Gu Mingming felt that that version was the most classic version, and did not accept any rebuttals. She taught the words on the couplet to Oriton, and told him that if the person who came 1,000 years later could recite this couplet, it would prove that he was the one she found. After all, she did not dare to be as unreliable as Wang Xiaoxin, and use TikTok videos as a secret signal. What if the person she chose did not use TikTok? Was she going to demonstrate it personally as the beast deity? The beast deity version of kelp dance, or learn to meow? Haha, the beast deity didn't care about his reputation. When the wine flag fluttered in the wind, Gu Mingming finally waved her hand and said goodbye to Oriton. She no longer had to travel a long distance. She just smiled and stared at Oriton, then slowly disappeared into the heat of the desert, like an evaporated mirage. Gu Mingming brought Elvis and Leah back to the illusion realm, and officially took over the role of the beast deity. She was in charge of marriage in the beast world, and just like the aunties in the neighborhood committee, she helped all the wronged wives and husbands in the area under her jurisdiction. She was also biased towards the females without any principles. In that illusion realm, there was a boundless grassland, layers of mountains and flowing streams. There were no 4 seasons and every day was as warm as spring with beautiful weather. She would sneak back to the beast world during winter every year and return to Snake's Cave. Her son and daughter would also come back to spend the winter with her. The red coral bracelet that she had prepared for Sandy was also given to Huda to bring back to Solder for Sandy. Huda said that when Sandy received the bracelet, she bawled her eyes out and no one could stop her. Colin and Bode could only frown in heartache, but could not say anything to comfort her. In the end, they just patted Sandy's back and sighed silently. As for Sandy, even when she fell asleep, there were still tears in the corners of her eyes. But not long after, she smiled. The next day, Sandy told Colin that she dreamed that she had returned to St. Nazaire, and saw Gu Mingming roasting meat at the platform of the deity's punishment. It smelled so good that she really wanted to eat it, so she went forward. After that, Gu Mingming sat at the side of the platform of the deity's punishment, smiled and extended her hand towards her saying, Hello, I'm Gu Mingming. She said that Gu Mingming was so warm at that time. If she was given a pair of wings, she could compete with the sun. Every year after that, Gu Mingming would let the children bring something for Sandy, and listen to what had happened to Sandy in that year. However, to the children, it had been a year since they last saw their mother, but to Gu Mingming, she would only accompany the children for dinner every night in the beast world. Yes, one day in the illusion was 1 year in the beast world. The so-called 1,000 years of waiting was actually just 1,000 days. This day, Gu Mingming revealed a long-lost smile. Elvis hugged her from behind and asked softly, What's the good news? Why are you smiling so happily? Gu Mingming waved her hand, and a screen appeared in front of her. There was a girl's face on it, crying and laughing at times. Aside from the topic, recommending Susu's new article, Warm Love on the Pillow. Don't stop taking CEO's medicine. A petite little cutie vs a proud and protective CEO. 1v1 sweet pet plus torture plus 3 none. No first love, no ex, no mistress. When they first met at the age of 7, Xia Xiangxi's innocent look instantly captured Lu Jincheng's heart. The young master of the Lu family did not know what it meant to like someone, but he knew that he would never let Xia Xiangxi suffer any grievances in this lifetime. He had to protect this furry and soft little sister for the rest of his life. In a kidnapping at the age of 10, he lost Xia Xiangxi and half his life. For the past 12 years, he had been looking for her every single day. But when he met her again, she had already forgotten about him. Chapter 16:24. She is. Leah also came over and looked at this unfamiliar face in confusion. Gu Mengmeng answered mysteriously. The next messenger of the beast deity. Elvis and Leah looked at each other, then at Gu Mengmeng asking, "Why did you choose her?" Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and said, "I wrote our experiences in the beast world into a novel and published it on the modern web. She is the most loyal reader of this novel. I am not as scheming as Wang Xiaoxin, so I can't come up with too many plans, so I can only use the most direct method to choose the next messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mengmeng smiled at the girl through the screen and said, "If it's her, she will definitely be able to do better than me. At least she won't be as helpless as when I first came to the beast world, doing so many stupid things and taking so many detours." Elvis chuckled and asked, "So you have been sitting there without moving for this period of time, writing this?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "From the start of the serialization to the end of the publication, it took a total of 237 days. The day it ended was exactly the 1000th day since Snake left me." Leah swayed his tail and asked with a smile, "Are you sure that this weak-looking girl can really help you gather the 7 treasures?" Gu Mengmeng nodded seriously and said, "I believe that if it's her, she will definitely be able to do it. Moreover, don't we still have to help her?" Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, "I will always listen to Xiao Meng. Whatever you say, it will be." Gu Mengmeng nodded and then said to the girl through the screen, "Hi, my messenger of the beast deity. When you come to the beast world, don't panic. The orcs here are mostly simple and kind. They will not hurt you. Snake and Grace are really important to me, so please help me bring them back. If you need a capable assistant, I recommend Oriton in the Mecha Desert. It doesn't matter if you forget the words on the couplet. I think you can just roast some meat or stir-fry some dishes to take him down. The one guarding the entrance of the Snake King Valley is my son Qi Xian. When he was young, he suffered a lot, but it was also because of this that he obtained an opportunity. The kiss of the ocean and the soul of the forest both remain in his body, and he is the only one of my 4 sons who is still alive. If you are stopped by him at the entrance of the Snake King Valley, I suggest that you shout, 'Mother is the best in this world' 3 times. This is the secret signal that I have agreed upon with him. As long as you shout this, he will know that you are my man and won't make things difficult for you. The love of the sky is being guarded by the vulture race. Let me tell you a secret. The current vulture emissary is also a very handsome and abstinent Prince Charming. Every year during the dry season in Mota Mountains, there would be half a day when the wind would stop blowing. At that time, he would go down the mountain to patrol. You just had to stand by the stream and sing, 'Just happened to meet you,' and he would bring you up the Mota Mountains. Because that song is the engagement song between me, the previous messenger of the beast deity, and the guardian god of Mota Mountains. In the beast world, no one knows how to sing it. As for the kiss of the ocean, who knows how many generations of Melinda's descendants are guarding it? The bad news is that the deep sea has not been peaceful these few years, and the conflicts between the races are rather chaotic. But the good news is that they have all inherited Melinda's and Carter's beauty and abilities. Each generation is more enchanting than the previous, so beautiful that no words can describe them. Anyway, as a beast deity who already has a partner and does not intend to harm young children, I will not go to the deep sea anymore. I am really afraid that I will not be able to control myself from spoiling other people's little fry. So I will leave all these handsome men to you, my dear messenger of the beast deity." Just like what Wang Xiaoxin said, my story ends here. Everything in the future is waiting for you to write. I will wait for you in the beast world. See you there, never leave. Aside from the topic, warm love on the pillow. Don't stop your medicine, Mr. CEO Lu Jincheng. Xia Xiangxi, let me tell you, to be my woman, you must have a pure heart. Xia Xiangxi, speak normally. Lu Jincheng, it's very simple. First, you must know how to find trouble for me to solve, and not let me feel bored. Secondly, you must have a rich material life, and not let the money I earn be left in the bank to grow worms. Thirdly, if there are other women who have ill intentions towards me, you must stop them and protect your man's chastity by hook or by crook. Fourthly, the most important point is that you can only have me in your heart. You are not allowed to like other men. Many years later, Lu Jincheng. I heard it all. You said you love other men. Xia Xiangxi rolled her eyes and asked, is the other man called Lu Nangua? Lu Jincheng, yes. Xia Xiangxi. Let me tell you, not only did I say I love him today, I also want to sleep with him tonight. Go sleep in the living room. Chapter 1625. 7 years. Gu Mengmeng had been the beast deity for a full 7 years. The messenger of the beast deity she chose was better than her in every aspect. She was honest with her feelings and never wavered like Gu Mengmeng. She had mated with 4 males and truly controlled the land, sea and air forces, becoming the first messenger of the beast deity to mate with the sea tribe out of the 3 messengers of the beast deity. But no matter what, she could not escape the heart-wrenching moment when the doors of time and space opened. Gu Mengmeng stood behind her and held her shoulders with both hands. She looked at the open doors of time and space from the side of her ear and said to her, you have watched Wolfman before, I don't need to tell you. If you go through this door now, the television series that you have been watching during this period of time will become your memory. You will live the blissful life that Oraton has created for you in that world, and everything you have experienced in the beast world will gradually disappear like a dream. On the other hand, the girl smiled at Oraton with tears in her eyes and asked, are you afraid? Oraton shook his head gently and firmly and said, for you, I am not afraid of anything. I have already promised to be your hero. Why would I change my mind at the last minute? The girl replied with a thick nasal voice, yeah. She hummed and said, after 1,000 years, I will make crystal pork knuckle, duck neck in soy sauce, bear paw in broth and roasted pig's feet for you. All right. Oraton pulled his lips into a smile and said in a heroic and tragic manner, you promised I will wait to eat your crystal pork knuckle, duck neck in soy sauce, bear paw in broth and roasted pig's feet. That door slowly closed. Gu Mengmeng's eyes still reddened after seeing such a scene after 1,000 years. Only when Oraton and the door disappeared did the girl suddenly pounce into Gu Mengmeng's arms and burst into tears. She was far from being as strong as she thought she was. Even if she knew that she could meet Oraton again after 1,000 years, her heart still ached when she saw Oraton being torn apart in front of her. The girl's collar was pulled by someone, and before she could react, she was flung into the air as though she had lost her balance. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. That little bit of melancholy was completely destroyed by the black face in front of her. Tu Meng, I haven't seen you for 1,000 years. You've grown a lot bolder, huh? You know that I'm coming back today. Yet you want to hug someone else in front of me? The black-faced deity standing in front of Gu Mengmeng was none other than Snake. He was truly aggrieved. After muddling through 1,000 years, he finally saw her again with great difficulty. But what was the result? Not only did she not come up to him to give him a hug and say a few soft words to tell him how much she missed him, she even hugged that dirty female with tears and snot all over her face. Did he really think he was dead? If it was in the past, Gu Mengmeng might have argued with Snake, but now she did not want to go against him at all. He had suffered enough. She did not want him to suffer any more. Pouncing into Snake's arms, Gu Mengmeng rubbed her little face against his chest, feeling his ice-cold body temperature. This touch, which used to terrify her, now made her feel blissful. Akuan, welcome back. I missed you so much. Chapter 1626. Tightening his arms, Snake looked at Gu Mengmeng and did not speak for a long time. He only kissed her deeply on the lips. This was a kiss that had been brewing for 1,000 years. It contained 2 lifetimes of unattainable desires and 2 lifetimes of separation. Finally, he could truly embrace a complete and real her and never let go again. Apart from Snake and Gu Mengmeng, no one else could understand how lingering this kiss was. Others could only see them hugging and kissing, with smiles on the corners of their lips and sparkles of happiness in their eyes. Any description seemed so pale and shallow in front of this kiss, not even worth mentioning. The kiss that was filled with love and lust lasted for a long time. It was so long that it was enough to express the yearning of 1,000 years. Snake then reluctantly let go of her. The corners of his lips curled up as he smiled. Tumeng, I am back. For the past 1,000 years he had so many things he wanted to say to her. But when he looked at her he could not utter a single word. In that dream realm, he learned many sweet nothings, but none of them were enough to express his feelings for Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng wrapped her arms around Snake's waist and nodded. This time, you are not allowed to leave me again. All right. Snake lowered his head and planted a kiss on Gu Mengmeng's forehead. It was a vow. From today onwards, he would only reply to her requests with one word, all right. Snake held Gu Mengmeng's hand and took out a ring from somewhere. He then firmly put it on the ring finger of Gu Mengmeng's left hand. Looking at the ring with a diamond on it, Snake's gaze was filled with tenderness. His right hand circled around Gu Mengmeng's shoulder and opened his palm in front of her. There was a male snake ring with a piece missing. He said, people say that husband and wife are of one heart, but the heart is not as important as the gallbladder for a snake. So, I am giving my gallbladder to you. If you are alive, I will live. If you are dead, I will die. Gu Mengmeng tiptoed and kissed Snake's lips. It was not romantic and even carried a tinge of punishment. Biting the corner of his lips, she then put down her heel. Seeing you die twice for me, I am still traumatized by your death. You are not allowed to mention anything about life or death in the future. Otherwise, I will cry for you. Yes, cry for you to see. Tears was Gu Mengmeng's killer move. Although she rarely used it, it was very powerful and there was not a single male in the family who was not afraid of it. But he was Snake frowning. Snake pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face, squeezing her mouth into a fish's mouth. Threatening me? If you dare to cry, I'll kill that little wolf. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say Elvis is also a beast king now. You probably won't be able to kill him. But she was afraid that if she said that, Snake would really go all out to fight Elvis. Sigh. Domestic violence is not desirable. Question. The men in my family are too hot-tempered. Their strength is at the peak. If they can fight, they will never quarrel. As a weak little woman, I feel a little sad. What should I do? It's urgent. I'm waiting online, looking up. Gu Mengmeng's words lingered in her stomach for a few rounds before finally becoming a soft sentence. You're not allowed to bully me. Kamo. Snake's HP bar was empty. It was as if an arrow had pierced through his ribs and pierced right into his chest. Chapter 1627. Gu Mengmeng knew that it was useless to use force on Snake, so she could only use the soft approach. He would fall for it. Seeing how Snake wanted to save face but could not do anything to her, Gu Mengmeng's mood soared. She tiptoed and kissed Snake's chin again before giggling. Snake's face brightened because of Gu Mengmeng's fawning, so he turned to the side and said, I brought your guardian beast back too. Gu Mengmeng's body stiffened and the smile on her face froze instantly. Her big eyes quickly became misty, and she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand before she dared to turn her head to look at the direction Snake was pointing at. Gregory. Gu Mengmeng choked and called out his name. Gregory smiled gently and stood on the spot without moving closer. He just looked at Gu Mengmeng affectionately and said, I promised you that I would come back and I did it. Gu Mengmeng wanted to hug Gregory but her waist was still in Snake's hands, and she did not dare to be rash. So she sneaked a glance at Snake. Snake's expression did not look too good, but he did not flare up. He just said coldly, he protected my real body for 1,000 years before I could come back to see you safely. Although it was aggrieved, I still owe him, so I brought him back. But I am warning you, do not have any thoughts that you should not have. If I find out, Snake did not finish his sentence and just narrowed his eyes, emitting a dangerous aura from his entire body. Before she could explain herself, Gregory beat her to it and said, "I'm just a guardian beast. I'm not greedy enough to want more, so you don't have to be so nervous. I can't snatch away your love." Gu Mingming shrunk her neck timidly and wanted to explain herself. Snake snorted in disdain and said, "Snatch away my love? What a big tone you have. But don't worry, I will not allow such a thing to happen. If you had mated with Tu Ming before me, or if your mark is closer to her heart than mine, I will definitely let you die 100 times worse than what you did 1,000 years ago." Gu Mingming could not keep up with his pace. She looked at Snake, then at Gregory and then at Snake again in a dazed so. What Snake meant by shouldn't have thoughts was to let Gregory take over before him. She thought he would say that all males other than him were wild men, and that she was not allowed to touch them anymore. "What are you looking at?" Snake looked down at Gu Mingming and asked. Gu Mingming laughed dryly and said, "Nothing much, I just feel that your temper is much better than before." Snake hugged Gu Mingming lightly and said, "I have wasted 2 lifetimes to exchange for this person. How can I not treasure her? As long as you're doing well, I'm fine." With that, Snake pushed Gu Mingming lightly, sending her into Gregory's arms. Gregory opened his arms wide and stood at the same spot without moving at all. He caught Gu Mingming steadily and hugged her deeply, saying, "I don't have the right to snatch you from his arms, so I can only stand here and wait for you. Thank you for coming into my arms. Thank you for not forgetting me." Gu Mingming did not say anything. She just used both hands to gently caress Gregory's arms, pursing her lips and not saying a word. Gregory knew what she was thinking about, so he whispered into her ear, "The weather is nice today. Do you want me to fulfill the promise I made to you previously?" Gu Mingming looked up at Gregory with anticipation in her eyes. Chapter 1628. Gregory transformed into a half-orc and let Gu Mingming lie on his back. He moved his shoulder blades slightly as a warm-up before spreading his wings and soaring into the sky with Gu Mingming on his back. He had not flown for 1,000 years, but his bird-like nature made him never forget how to soar. Gu Mingming cheered excitedly on Gregory's back. This was not the first time she was being carried by Gregory. She even had a pair of wings for a short period of time, and had flown a few times herself. But this time, it was the most blissful experience she had ever had. A gust of wind blew past her face, making Gu Mingming's eyes dry up. Yes, it was because her eyes were dry that she was tearing up. It was not because she was sentimental. It was not. The grassland that stretched as far as the eye could see was not as majestic as Mota Mountain, but it had a different kind of charm. Snake had transformed into his original form, and was already fighting with Elvis. The battle between the 2 beast kings looked dangerous, but neither of them wanted to kill the other. After all, they could not bear to see the little person flying in the sky shed tears. Leah swayed his large tail as he sat on the back of the 2-seater chair. He stepped on the armrest lazily and at ease. He would give Snake pointers at one moment and give Elvis a few reminders at the next. He was the classic type of spectator who did not mind the matter getting bigger, and was afraid that their fight was not exciting enough. The girl who was originally crying miserably stood at a distance and looked at the 3 legendary beast kings. Initially, her emotions of wanting to cry were forcefully dispersed by them. She was a little dazed and suddenly felt that she could not differentiate between reality and fantasy. She really, just because he finished reading a novel, he transmigrated to this world? Initially, she felt her heart ache because Gu Mingming did not value Elvis highly because of Lee's appearance. When Nina's incident happened, she scolded herself for being blind back then, and not realizing that Leah was a scumbag. But while scolding him, she also left a message for the author because her heart ached for that white fox's pitiful appearance. Because of Snake's death, she cried a lot, and when she denounced the author, she felt as though she was grinding her teeth. When Gregory broke his wings and was blinded, her heart was tugged at again. At that time, she really wanted to crawl out from the screen and strangle the author to death. But when she saw the ending, the author asked her for help, saying that Snake was really important to her, and that she had to save him and Gregory. She agreed in a moment of impulse. She did not even think about it herself. At that time, she only muttered, "If I could really transmigrate to the beast world, I would definitely save Snake and Gregory." Then he actually transmigrated. This was not in line with the core values of socialism, and it happened to him just like that. Looking at the snake and wolf fighting, the white fox who was watching the commotion and stirring up trouble, and Gregory who was flying in the sky, the girl wiped away the tears on her face, raised her head and shouted, "Susu, I'm going back first. My man is still waiting for me." The girl on Gregory's back peeked out her little head and waved at her through Gregory's shoulder. "That novel ended 7 years ago, and you're still calling me Susu?" The girl smiled brightly and said, "Do you think that everything will be fine after 7 years? You abducted me to the beast world. Don't you need to take responsibility? Let me tell you, I'm going to depend on you for the rest of my life. You will always be my Susu." Gu Mingming chuckled and nodded. "All right, I will always be your Susu." Aside from the topic, after accompanying Susu for over 200 days, we finally welcome the ending of this novel. I wonder if my darlings are satisfied with this ending? The process was a little complicated, but the outcome was ultimately good. If any of my darlings is willing to transmigrate to the beast world and continue writing chapters, you can leave a long comment on the comments section or send a private message to Susu through the fan group. Outstanding works with a length of 1,000 words and above would be published by Susu in the form of a free novel in the external chapters, with the reader's name indicated. But to avoid copyright infringement, my darlings must not copy other people's novels. Once discovered, it will be deleted immediately. Lastly, please advertise Susu's new novel, Warm Thoughts on a Pillow. Don't stop taking the CEO's medication. Chapter 1629. Traversing the Doors of Time and Space. This option was just a smokescreen from the start. Standing at the entrance of S University, Gu Mingming was still in a daze. Her little reader had first replaced her as the messenger of the beast deity. Then with Oratin's disappearance, she had replaced her as the new beast deity. Then Gu Mingming was suddenly at a loss. Not the messenger of the beast deity, not the beast deity. Then, who should Gu Mingming be? What should she do? Return to Saint Nazir? But to her, 3 years and 1,000 days were 1,000 earth-shattering years in the beast world. How could she, the messenger of the beast deity who had been dead for 1,000 years, return? Of course, no one could stop her if she wanted to return. After all, a family of 5 and 3 beast kings was enough to turn the beast world upside down. But how could she return to face everything that had changed? Barit, who said he wanted to guard a place for her to return to, had long turned into ashes, unable to break through the third-level boundary. He said his life was in the hands of one person, and other than that person, he would not belong to anyone else. Although the 16 valued females were well taken care of, there was a limit to their beast lives. Without the powers of a beast king, they could not be immortal like Gu Mingming. Since ancient times, beauties were like heroes, not allowed to see their hair turn white. The 16 golden hairpins who had once surrounded her, the 16 beauties who made her feel proud wherever she went, had gradually faded away with the passage of time. How could she not feel sorry for them? She could not return, not because someone was stopping her, but because Gu Mingming herself could not overcome the barrier in her heart. Therefore, she muddle-headedly stayed in her beast deity illusion for a long period of time. The question she repeatedly pondered was, who am I? Where am I? What should I do? Snake curled his tail and wrapped Gu Mingming into his arms, saying, "If you are bored, go back to the modern world." Gu Mingming was taken aback, tilting her head to look at Snake. Her eyes were full of excitement, but also full of doubt, as if she did not understand Snake's meaning, and was waiting for him to explain. Snake's lips curled up, saying, "The last time my parents supported you at the press conference, you suddenly cried and I carried you away. Time there is still at the same place. Do you want to go back and finish acting that overbearing senior falls in love with me? MMM? Since you know it's all fake, why do you have to lie to yourself?" Gu Mingming's spirit wilted and the light in her eyes dimmed. But Snake smiled and said, "Truth can be false and falsehood can also be true. This world has always been like this. Everyone said that Zhuangzhou dreamed of a butterfly, but who could guarantee that it was not a butterfly dreaming of Zhuangzhou? Anyway, he had nothing to do, so he could just treat it as a pastime. Besides, halfway through his sentence, Snake planted a human kiss on Gu Mingming's forehead. He said in a deep and calm tone, "I promised to give you a complete family, so I must do it. Regardless of whether other things are true or false. We who are by your side are true. That's enough, isn't it?" It was obvious that after experiencing the baptism of the modern world, Snake knew how to communicate with females better than Elvis, Leah, or anyone else in the beast world. He was no longer the awkward Snake King who had kicked little shit up a tree. Gu Mingming's lips curled. Yeah, so what if the illusion was fake? Elvis, Leah, Grace, and Snake, who were by her side, were real. That was enough. What about you? What do you say? Are you willing to act out a show with me? Gu Mingming asked. Digression. She did not want to write the digression, but the little babies kept saying that the overbearing senior did not see the ending and kept thinking about it. So Susu picked up her pen again and continued writing. Chapter 1630. Elvis walked forward and scooped Gu Mingming out of Snake's arms. I will always listen to Xiao Meng. Gu Mingming nodded. Since Elvis was acting like the first partner, Leah naturally could not bully him as a senior. Hence, he leaned into Gu Mingming's arms in his usual flirtatious manner. That place is Snake's home ground. Gu Mingming, you have to protect me and not let Snake bully me like he did in the Snake King Valley. Aya, my little heart is thumping nonstop. I'm scared and excited at the same time. Gu Mingming, touch me. This coquettish fox was up to his old tricks again. Just look at his eyes. Without even opening his mouth, Snake could read the hidden meaning in his words. See, Gu Mingming's heart is still on our side. But unfortunately, he could no longer bear to kill this coquettish fox who kept provoking him for no reason. After all, they were a family. Moreover, Gu Mingming was a treasure that he had exchanged for after dying twice in the most tragic way. He would rather turn his bones into ashes than let her frown again. So, even if this coquettish fox could ascend to the heavens, he could only whip him down with his tail. He could not whip him to death. Elvis and Leah both expressed their stance. Gu Mingming's gaze naturally landed on Gregory. Gregory's status in this family was rather special and awkward. He was not Gu Mingming's partner, but a guardian beast. But her partners were all beast kings. Was it his turn to protect her? But what could he do? Even if it was awkward, even if it was difficult, he still wanted to stay by her side and never leave her side. Smiling, Gregory was like a celestial being who stayed on the mountain for a long time. His eyes were as deep as an ancient spring. He opened his mouth and said calmly, "Wherever Baby Meng is, I will be there." The result of everyone passing was that Snake brought them back to the time when they left the last time. Elvis, Leah, and Gregory could not appear in Z country without identification cards. So they could only go to F country with Snake's arrangements. Snake's family was the royal family there. Especially in the recent 10 over years, under Snake's control, the family became stronger day by day. It was too easy for such a family to get a few identification cards. Moreover, Elvis and the rest looked more European. If they insisted that they were from Z country, it would be even more out of place. However, among the 3 people who were arranged to go to country F, the first one who could come to country Z was not the 2 beast kings, but the guardian beast, Gregory. His identity was simple. He was the personal bodyguard Snake had arranged for Gu Mingming. Yeah, because the newly appointed CEO of Monsieur Company, Snake's pampered girlfriend, was locked in the toilet during the press conference and drenched with a basin of water. Snake's parents unanimously agreed that Gu Mingming needed a personal bodyguard. Snakel was speechless and kept telling himself, Xiaomeng needs a pair of parents. This is prepared for Xiaomeng. I can't kill them, I can't kill them, I can't kill them. In the end, Snake could only choose Gregory, who had the lowest presence and had spent the most time with him. After all, to Gu Mingming, it was over 1,000 days and nights, but to him, he had really been burning in the lava of Mota Mountain for 1,000 years. And in these 1,000 years, it was this birdman who broke his own wings and sacrificed his life to the mountain. so that he could have the chance to return to Gu Mingming's side. Chapter 1631. So, the final outcome was that Snake's parents had unilaterally announced that Gu Mingming was the future daughter-in-law of their family. Then, with a bunch of extremely profound and high-class English that they could not understand even though their English had obviously passed the 4th or 6th level, they returned to the country in a high-profile manner. That speech was summed up by Snake in one sentence. Gu Mingming is our family's daughter-in-law. Whoever touches her will be challenging the F country's royal family, causing a diplomatic dispute between the two countries. As a result, Gu Mingming became the hottest new rich overnight. But the amazing thing was, no one knew who the F country's prince who had a marriage agreement with Gu Mingming was. Snake was still a gigolo who was kept by Gu Mingming. So Gu Mingming, who was surrounded by the crowd at the entrance of S University, was dumbfounded. How should she put it? Her relationship with her husband did not seem to be legal in the modern world. But after being husband and wife for thousands of years, they were suddenly framed by the modern world's marriage values. She, as an authentic modern person, suddenly reverted back to the old ways and felt like she was not acclimatized. She could almost guess what kind of melodramatic drama the students were imagining. It must be that the F country's prince found out that Gu Mingming had kept Snake, the gigolo, in the country and was heartbroken. So he secretly left Z country and returned to F country to heal his emotional wounds. But before he left, he was worried about Gu Mingming's safety, afraid that she would be deceived by Snake, the gigolo. So he left his confidant Gregory by Gu Mingming's side as a bodyguard, to help this prince who had the Horkin plains above his head look after his wife. Just look at Gregory's strong aura, his burly figure, his handsome looks, tsk. A strong scent of abstinence wafted over. It really made one's heart flutter. Just look, he and Snake were standing on Gu Mingming's left and right. Their gazes were like sparks, and one could smell the burning scent even from a distance away. Do you want to eat at home or at the canteen? Snake asked. Gu Mingming replied. Let's eat at home and help Gregory learn the way. Gregory replied. All right. I'll listen to you. Snake gave in unconditionally. Crack crack, his knees shattered. What was going on? Wasn't it supposed to be a battle of swords drawn and bows drawn? A battle between a loyal dog's heart and a senior's lover? Why did it suddenly become harmonious? It was said that the road of love had always been narrow. It was just right for two people, but it was destined to be bumpy with one more person. Hiss? But why did it look like the three of them were walking quite widely? One on the left and one on the right, protecting the petite girl in the middle. Their coordination was too good. Of course, they did not know that if Gu Mingming's entire family was present, the scene would be even more shocking. Gu Mingming had lessons in the morning, which meant that Snake also had lessons in the morning. Because he had voluntarily applied to the school to repeat a year and transfer to the same grade and specialization as Gu Mingming, strictly speaking, he was no longer Gu Mingming's senior. Yes, he was Gu Mingming's legitimate husband. The mark was on his heart. That was a place that was inconvenient for others to see. It was not as conspicuous as the wolf on her collarbone and the fox on her ears, but it made Snake feel deeply that what was the point of dying twice for her? If that kind of situation happened again, he did not mind dying a third time, a fourth time to protect her. Even if each death was more tragic than the one before, and each death was more painful than the one before, he would gladly endure it. As long as she was well, he would do anything. Aside from the topic. Previously, you kept asking me why Elvis's mark was not on his heart. Why was Lee's mark not on his heart? Now do you know why? Chapter 1632. Gu Mingming's grades were below average, and she had to work a few jobs a day. In the past, she would usually fall asleep in class, especially when the old professor rambled on and on. His tone and frequency were more effective than hypnosis. But this time, Gu Mingming was so excited that she could not fall asleep. This class was about labor relations and management. The old professor was analyzing the labor dispute case of a certain cartoon company in 2008 due to job hopping. He then explained the importance of labor contract management. To be honest, Gu Mingming was still not paying attention to what the old professor was saying. Her pair of big eyes were looking around the entire classroom, and every detail made her feel pleasantly surprised. Actually, before transmigrating, she had never observed a classroom in such detail. What was there to see about something she was used to? But after going to the beast world and coming back, Gu Mingming felt a sense of familiarity even from the purple clay cup the old professor was using to drink water. The students' scribbles on the blackboard, the silk banner hanging on the wall, the slogan 5 stresses and 4 beauties on the blackboard, and the old professor's cursive handwriting that was comparable to an old Chinese doctor's prescription. During roll call, there was a female student who used a book to cover her face and changed her voice to call out for the entire dorm. There was a male student who was sleeping soundly on the table. There was a young couple who was sitting diagonally with a wronged expression, and a young couple who was looking at each other with deep love and regret, thinking that they were filming a music video. There was also an ambiguous partner who was sitting next to each other, but pretended not to know each other, but was surrounded by bonus bubbles. University life was so rich. Why did she not realize it in the past? At that time, she could only try her best to survive. How would she have the time to realize all these? He pinched Gu Mingming's little hand. Gu Mingming then regained her senses and looked at Snake. That momentary smile dazzled Snake's eyes, and the depression that he had initially felt also dissipated into thin air. What's wrong? Gu Mingming asked. Snake wanted to put on a cold face, but he could not do so in front of Gu Mingming. The corners of his lips had already betrayed him. Every time he saw Gu Mingming, he would unknowingly smile and could not pull it back. As if he had accepted his fate, Snake's tone was unbelievably soft. He no longer had any of the awe-inspiring aura of the Snake King, who killed decisively in the past. Right now, he was completely a man who fell in love with his wife. All the tenderness in the world was concentrated on the little person in front of him. You haven't looked at me since this morning. Elvis and Leah aren't around, so I have to fight for attention with this lousy school now. Gu Mingming pinched her nose and said exaggeratedly, so sour. My teeth are about to fall off. You still dare to laugh at me? Snake frowned, but his eyes were filled with doting and indulgent smiles. Gu Mingming looked at the old professor who was still explaining the specific details of different labor contracts and gestured a shoe gesture. She whispered, "We're in class, don't disturb others. Be quiet and be good, Snake gritted his teeth. Obediently? She actually asked him to be obedient. He was the great Lord Snake, the supreme Snake King in the beast world, the most honorable prince in the modern era, the powerful CEO. She actually asked him to be obedient. What was even more hateful was that after she said that, he actually really obediently shut his mouth. Aside from the topic, well, the draft for the new article is still in storage. The speed of the new article cannot be as fast as before, 9,000 a day. The editor meant that 2,000 a day would be enough for me to slowly increase it. But 2,000, even if the editor had the cheek to say that, I would be too embarrassed to agree. So let's temporarily set it at 4,000 a day. If Susu's time permits, she can update a little more babies. You can understand me, right? Chapter 1633. Looking at Snake's conflicted expression, Gu Mingming smiled slyly. He was just too adorable. Yeah, if Snake knew that Gu Mingming used the word adorable to describe him, he might really fly into a rage. But what could he do? He was just adorable. That unsmiling and aloof Prince Charming, Lord Snake, who studied in S University for a year and was treated as a mute and did not speak a single word to his classmates, was now staring with his eyes wide open, as if he had suffered a loss but had nowhere to vent his anger. It was a perfect match for the trending emoticon, "I feel bitter in my heart, but I won't say it." This contrast, if it wasn't adorable, what was it? Using the book to cover her face, Gu Mingming pecked Snake's cheek as if she was deceiving herself. Then she returned to her original position, smiling mischievously at Snake. This kiss brightened up Snake's entire expression. How could he be in a bad mood? Then the surrounding people exploded even more. Hey, the loyal bodyguard who was here to look after the princess wife. Your future princess kissed a gigolo in public and you're just calmly pretending to be blind. If Gu Mengmeng and the other two claimed to be number 2, no one would dare to claim to be number 1. Everyone was paying attention to her, but no one dared to go near her. When the news of Gu Mengmeng being the CEO of Monsieur was released, there were still people who tried to suck up to her. But when the news of F country's future princess was released, the world instantly quietened down. Especially that Miss Mo from the Mo family. She poured a basin of water on them in the toilet, directly soaking the Mo family. A family with 100 years of history. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and when the wall is down, everyone kicks it. In an instant, the Mo family turned from a well-off wealthy family into a street rat that everyone wanted to beat up. All their businesses were suppressed by Snake in all aspects, without any regard for costs. Even if the Mo family had a mountain of gold and silver, it was not enough for Snake to scam them like this, so very quickly, they faced the crisis of having their cash flow broken. This news was magnified by the media, and all the other businesses that had business dealings with them came to settle their accounts, causing the Mo family, a family that was in a precarious situation, to be battered and exhausted. And the one who spread the news of the Mo family's cash flow breaking was the Miss Mo's marriage partner. The other wealthy family in S City, the Fan family. Marriage had nothing to do with love in the first place. You have your fun and I have mine. It was very normal. That was why the young master of the Fan family, Fan Yuanbin, did what he did not because he was jealous of his fiancée for finding trouble with another woman for another man. Instead, it was because the old master of the Mo family had come to ask for help. He hoped that the Fan family would lend a helping hand at this critical juncture, and complete the marriage between Fan Yuanbin and the young lady of the Mo family, Mo Fun, ahead of time. Then he would lend the Mo family a sum of money in the name of betrothal gifts to help the Mo family tide over the current crisis. After the storm had passed and the Mo family had recovered, they would return the money in the name of dowry. However, the Mo clan had forgotten one thing. The so-called marriage alliance was a cooperative relationship that could only be formed when both parties were of equal strength. Right now, the Mo clan was already in existence that everyone avoided like the plague. Chapter 1634. Once this news came out, it was like adding hail to snow. Some of the old business partners who did not press for the debt, because of old friendships, had no choice but to come to settle the debt. The Mo family really could not fork out the money. None of old Master Mo's antiques were left. They were all moved away. Even the heirloom ring on his finger was forcefully taken off to pay off the debt. Gu Mengmeng did not know and Snake did not remember any of this. Because although they had transmigrated back a week ago, this week was a long 1,000 years that they had spent in the beast world. Snake experienced the decomposition of his body and was suppressed in the magma of Modu for 1,000 years. After his rebirth, how could he see anyone else other than Gu Mengmeng? To him, the Mo family's matter was just an order he had sent to his assistant while waiting for Gu Mengmeng to bathe in the changing room. Moreover, how could he remember a small episode from 1,000 years ago for so long? But to the others here, all of this happened yesterday. Everyone in S City knew how expensive Miss Mo's basin of water was. Under such circumstances, who would dare to go near Gu Mengmeng? Of course, it would be glorious to cling to her, but if they did not know their limits, they would end up in a terrible state. It was not easy to cling to this thigh. And look at the two people beside her. They did not give anyone a chance to get close to her. So after Gu Mengmeng returned to school, other than the countless gazes that lingered on her, the truly annoying ones did not stick to her. But she had been the messenger of the beast deity for over 5 years in the beast world. After being stared at by ferocious wild beasts for 5 years, the gazes of the modern world seemed like child's play, compared to the hundreds of males in Saint Nazir who used their true forms to stare at her with their green eyes, tearing the carcasses of animals around her, drinking their blood, chewing on the heads of tigers and claws of wolves in front of her. These gazes in the modern world were negligible, because she had completely forgotten the past, and everyone's gazes were treated as ineffective attacks by Gu Mengmeng. She did not take it to heart. So the Mo family's matter did not cause any ripples in Gu Mengmeng's heart. Gu Mengmeng did not have any classes in the afternoon, and Monday was the regular training day for the basketball club. Strictly speaking, Gu Mengmeng had not seen Bailan for over 10 years. She really missed her. To be able to return here and see Bailan was definitely the thing that Gu Mengmeng wanted the most. She dragged Snake and Gregory to the basketball club early in the morning and saw Bailan playing with Zhang Jincheng. The two of them were now in a relationship, but they were not as affectionate as other couples. Instead, they were more like good brothers who would fight each other whenever they saw each other. However, it was one thing for the two of them to insult each other to the point that they were worthless. If an outsider dared to say anything bad about the other party, they would roll up their sleeves and attack without a word of nonsense. Bailan. Gu Mingming's eyes reddened the moment she saw Bailan. That kind of feeling, as if it was a lifetime ago, directly attacked his heart. Ever since Snake came back to life, Gu Mingming's tears, which she had not shed for so many years, gushed out in an instant, unable to be stopped. Chapter 1635. As she said that, Bailan glared fiercely at Snake. Snake really felt like he could not defend himself even with 100 mouths. Feeling wronged by Bailan's glare, he leaped up angrily, but could not do anything to this woman. Gu Mengmeng cared about her, very much. She did not say anything and just called out, Bailan, before her tears flowed uncontrollably. Snake did not doubt that if he dared to touch a single strand of Bailan's hair today, Gu Mengmeng would drown him with her tears. Gu Mengmeng cried even more fiercely as she hugged Bailan tightly, choking with sobs. I miss you so much, I'll go. Bailan quivered. She grabbed Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and pulled her away. Glancing at her tearful little face, she hugged her harshly back into her arms. She said in an especially manly manner, All right, I'll satisfy you. Go back to the dormitory to sleep tonight. If you can get off the bed tomorrow, it'll be my loss. Actually, girls would occasionally crack such jokes among themselves, but most of the time it was in private, when there were no boys around. Other than Bailan, there was probably no other girl in this world who dared to say something like that in front of everyone. Gu Mengmeng was tickled by Bailan's words. She punched Bailan lightly and sniffled. If I occupy you, what will happen to Zhang Jincheng? Bailan laughed heartily and said, Both of us have become lesbians, then let him go and be gay with Snake. Wife-swapping games, it's quite exciting just thinking about it. Ah. Gu Mengmeng was someone who had lived for more than 1,000 years, but she still could not withstand Bailan's charms. Pinching Bailan, Gu Mengmeng was just about to scold her for not being serious when her waist tightened. Gu Mengmeng was suddenly pulled from behind and fell into a chest. Turning back, she met Gregory's cold and calm eyes. He was looking at Bailan with an extremely unfriendly gaze. His brows were slightly furrowed, as if he was sizing up whether Bailan was male or female. Gu Mengmeng was stunned. She then remembered that Gregory came from the beast world. This was his first time interacting with a modern person. He would definitely not be able to adapt to Bailan's heavy taste jokes. She wanted to explain but could not find the right words, so she could only turn to Snake for help. But the moment she saw Snake's face fine because of Bailan's wife-swapping joke, this old man's face was about to freeze, so he obviously wouldn't help. Gu Mengmeng's current position was a little awkward, because the way Gregory carried her was the same way Elvis carried her in the beast world, supporting his buttocks with one arm, as if he was carrying a child. This was very normal in the beast world, but in the modern world, basically no boyfriend had ever hugged his girlfriend like this. Especially since in everyone's eyes, Snake was Gu Mengmeng's boyfriend, while Gregory was just a bodyguard. Bailan's expression was also unfriendly. She had already noticed Gregory just now, but Gu Mengmeng cried the moment she saw him, so she did not have the time to ask. Now even her real boyfriend didn't dare to snatch him from her hands, but a hothead who popped out of nowhere dared to snatch him from her hands. Chapter 1636. Gu Mengmeng patted Gregory's shoulder and said, Put me down first. Gregory's brows were still furrowed, and he was obviously on guard against Bailan. Gregory. Gu Mengmeng frowned and her gaze was filled with urgency. Her eyes were still red from crying and Gregory naturally could not bear to make her angry again. So he placed her on the ground, but kept his arms around her shoulders, and did not allow her to walk over to Bailan. Gu Mingming had no choice but to say to Gregory, "This is Bailan, a very important friend to me, just as important as Sandy. Understand?" Gu Mingming purposely emphasized on the word very important, and even used Sandy as an example. Although Gregory was still frowning, he had retracted his cold aura and just nodded as a form of greeting. Gu Mingming knew that Gregory would at least not lay a hand on Bailan, and heaved a sigh of relief. She turned to look at Bailan and said, "He is Gregory, he is my—" Gu Mingming suddenly bit her own tongue. How should she introduce him? "This is my guardian beast, the kind that can die for me but cannot enter my bed." Gu Mingming already felt awkward introducing guardian beasts in the beast world, and now that she was in the present world, she could not bring herself to say it. Pursuer. Snake gave Gu Mingming a simple reminder, and gave her a suitable phrase. Gu Mingming looked at Snake gratefully as if she had just been pardoned and said, "Yes, yes, yes, pursuer." F***CK. Bailan's eyes widened and she wrapped her arms around Gu Mingming's to pull her to her side. If she were to grab a handful of melon seeds and munch on them, she would be a modern gossipy woman. Bailan nudged Gu Mingming with her shoulder and said, "How did you do it? You made these two love rivals coexist peacefully, and even work together to fight against outsiders? But girl, your taste is not good. How can you find one who looks like a mute and another who still looks like a mute?" Gu Mingming could not explain to Bailan how loyal the males in the beast world were to their own females, and she did not want to change their stubbornness. Call her selfish, call her anything, but she frankly admitted that she liked and enjoyed the loyalty and unique gentleness they gave her. So Gu Mingming just smiled and said, "I like the ice abstinence type." "TSK, do you have masochistic tendencies? Isn't it good to coax you every day? You like to hug ice cubes. Aren't you afraid that you'll freeze?" "I won't." Gu Mingming chuckled because she knew better than anyone else how warm her man was to her. He would never freeze her. Bailan smiled slyly, a different kind of ambiguity appearing in the corner of Gu Mingming's eyes. She nudged Bailan with her shoulder. "Aya, you are so annoying. Are you shy?" As Bailan spoke, she held Gu Mingming and walked to the side. When she passed by Zhang Jincheng, she said with a look of disdain, "Aren't you the leader? Everyone is here. Don't we need to organize a practice? So you're all here to let out some fresh air in the basketball club, right?" Zhang Jincheng did not lose his temper even after being teased by Bailan. He just chuckled and said, "Yes, yes, yes, let's hurry up and practice." The Tech University basketball team sent us a challenge letter and indicated that they want to meet Snake. When the time comes, the surrounding universities' basketball clubs will all send representatives to watch the match. Snake, whether our basketball club can become an instant hit depends on you. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1637. Having not touched a basketball for 1,000 years, Snake felt an itch to play, so he entered the changing room to change. Gregory was not a member of the basketball club, but he was tall, well-built and handsome. Zhang Jincheng had thought of pulling him into the basketball club, but Gregory was obviously an enemy of Bailan. He guarded Gu Mingming closely, and did not spare a single glance at anyone else. This caused Zhang Jincheng to attempt to strike up a conversation several times, only to be met with a nose full of ice. In the end, Zhang Jincheng gave up. And considering that Snake and Gregory were love rivals, for the sake of team harmony, Zhang Jincheng could only give up the idea of recruiting Gregory. And all these psychological activities, other than Zhang Jincheng, no one else noticed. He was the legendary playboy with a lot of inner drama, but no one had an audience. Snake was still very handsome when he played basketball. Gu Mingming and Bailan did not chat for long before their eyes were attracted to Snake. Bailan laughed at the side. Good for nothing. Then she gave Gregory a warning look, which probably meant, "Did you see that? The two of them have a good relationship. You'd better know when to back off. Don't ruin their relationship." Gregory could not be bothered with Bailan's warning. He just quietly admired Gu Mingming, who was looking at Snake with an infatuated look. Did he want to be the one who attracted her gaze? Grace was seriously thinking about this problem. If sweating profusely on the basketball court could make her look at him with such focus and admiration, would he be willing? The answer was yes, he was willing. But when she looked at him like that, he could not return the same focus and would miss out on her expression. Then would he still be willing? He was not willing. He had suppressed motive for 1,000 years, which meant he had missed out on seeing her for 1,000 years. And now, he was not willing to miss out on seeing her again. So what if her gaze was not focused on him? As long as she was in his line of sight, he would feel blissful. After the practice ended, Snake brought Gu Mengmeng and Gregory back to the villa. Snake's sports car only had 2 seats, so a commercial car was temporarily transferred from the 4th Fleet. His sports car was parked directly in the school. Anyway, no one dared to interfere. It was Gregory's first time in a car. He was nervous and uneasy. To comfort him, Gu Mengmeng sat with him in the back seat. Snake was unhappy, but he only said, "So weak." He did not say anything else. Gregory did not refute. If he showed weakness, Baby Meng would accompany him and care about him. He did not mind showing weakness all the time. After all, out of the 4 males in the family, he was the only level 3 orc. Gu Mengmeng held onto Gregory's hand and gently patted the back of it. "It's all right, don't be afraid. Snake's driving skills are top-notch. He's an experienced driver. With you here, I'm not afraid." Grace replied with a gentle smile. It would be an exaggeration to say that he was afraid. It was just that riding in a car was too novel, and Gregory was a little nervous. Fortunately, Snake drove home smoothly and did not deliberately speed to scare Gregory. The moment she alighted, Gu Mengmeng's phone rang. The caller ID indicated that it was Bailan. Gu Mengmeng didn't think much and directly picked it up. "Hello Bailan. You miss me so soon?" Gu Mengmeng's joke was met with a creepy sneer on the other end of the phone. That sneer was modified by a voice changer. Chapter 1638. If you want to save your good friend, come to the unfinished building in the northern suburbs alone. If you dare to bring one more person, I will push them down to their deaths in front of you. With that, before Gu Mengmeng could reply, the call was cut off. When Gu Mengmeng called back, it was a reminder that the phone was switched off. Gu Mengmeng panicked. She looked at Snake and Gregory, not knowing what to do. "This is kidnapping, we can report it to the police." Snake replied calmly. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said with a sobbing tone, "Didn't you hear what she said just now? If one more person goes, she will push Bailan down." Snake held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands and said, "Don't panic, Gregory and I will go with you. We will definitely help you save Bailan." But she said, "Are the 2 of us humans?" Snake smiled devilishly and asked Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng choked. She looked at Snake and then at Gregory and shook her head. A snake, a bird, not human, they were not human. "So we can go." Snake hugged Gu Mengmeng and said, "Don't worry, don't be afraid. We said we won't let you cry again, so we won't let you cry again." Gu Mengmeng was comforted by Snake's hug. She nodded and felt more at ease. Snake placed her back in the car and went straight to the unfinished building in the northern city. The unfinished building in the north city was originally meant to be a villa, but who knew that halfway through the construction, the boss lost all his money in gambling and ran away. The building was left unfinished. Usually many drug addicts would gather here to have a good time, and those delinquents who thought they were cool and awesome would often gather here to fight or have sex. Anyway, this was the most filthy place in S City. Children from decent families would not come here. And it was naturally Gu Mengmeng's first time stepping into such a place. It was just evening and it was not the time for those people to move around. The walls of this dilapidated villa were filled with non-mainstream graffiti such as skulls. Burnt petrol barrels, cigarette butts and condoms were the main rubbish here. Snake parked the car outside the unfinished building. He did not let Gu Mengmeng enter directly, but gave Gregory a look. Gregory understood and shrugged his shoulders, transforming into a bird and flying into the night sky against the sunset glow. At a sufficient height, nothing in the unfinished building could escape Gregory's eyes. He circled around once and locked onto a location. He flew back to Mengming's side and said, "In that building, I saw the shoes that Zhang Jincheng wore today. There's smoke coming from the fourth floor, but it doesn't seem like a bonfire because it's very thin and faint." "All right, then I'm going in." Snake smiled and said, "Tu Meng, who are you going to call to help you later?" Gu Mengming pushed Snake and said, "Bailan is still inside. I am not in the mood to joke around." Snake hooked Gu Mengming's chin and said, "I'm not joking either. I admit that I lost to Elvis, but if you dare to be the last to call me, I will eat them." Gu Mengming was really speechless. She could only nod and say, all right, I got it. I'm going in first." Snake leaned against the car door and waved his hand, saying, "Go on, Pikachu." Chapter 1639. According to the coordinates given by Gregory, Gu Mengming accurately found where Bailan and the rest were. Looking up, she saw a vulture hovering above her head at a height of 6,000 meters. She did not even need to think to know who it was. Gregory's speed was extremely fast, and he would only need about 4 seconds to dive down. That meant that if she was pushed down from the fourth floor, Gregory would be able to catch her before she hit the ground from a height of 6,000 meters. So, what was there to be afraid of? Gu Mengming hummed a tune as she walked step by step to the bottom of the villa. The shape of the walls had already been completed, but it was still rough. There were no windows or doors, and there were no handrails for the stairs. It looked tattered, and it was hard to imagine that this was originally a high-end residential area targeted at the wealthiest people. There were no obstructions along the way to the fourth floor, but having lived in the beast world for so many years, Gu Mengming still had some of the sharp senses of an orc. Of course, it was not as sharp as Elvis, Leah and Snake, but she still had the basic ability to sense things. There seemed to be 5 or 6 people lying in ambush around the villa. From the moment she entered the villa, they quietly followed behind her. When she went up to the second floor, one of the 5 or 6 people stayed behind to guard the door, probably to keep a lookout, while the rest followed her upstairs. Obviously, they were afraid that she would run away, and were prepared to surround her. TSK, they really had no sense of danger, unable to differentiate who was the hunter and who was the prey. Gu Mengming pretended that she did not notice them, and continued humming a tune as she walked up the stairs. The people lying in ambush also felt that Gu Mengming's state was not right at first, but after a closer look, she really came alone. The man who sent her here was standing by the roadside, and did not enter the estate with her at all. So they analyzed Gu Mengming's humming posture as she walked up the stairs to boost her courage, pretending to be calm and acting mysterious. When she reached the fourth floor, she saw Bailan and Zhang Jincheng tied to a folding chair, back to back. Their arms were tied together, and it was impossible for them to help each other untie the ropes. Both of their legs were tied to the legs of the chair, and the edges of the ropes were stained with blood, showing how tightly they were tied. 2 people who couldn't move were suspended in the air by iron chains. The chains swayed slightly and made a sharp and ear-piercing sound. Gu Mengming frowned and her heart twitched. When she first went to the beast world, she felt that the sharp claws and fangs of the orcs were too scary, but when she returned to the modern world, she understood, when humans are ruthless, they are much scarier than ferocious beasts. Gu Mengming. Bailan's face was covered in blood, and she could not open her eyes. She could vaguely make out a figure, and called out in a weak voice. Gu Mengming frowned and chuckled, replying, "Yeah, Bailan, I'm here to save you, don't be afraid." That sentence was like pouring a bowl of water into a boiling pot of oil. Bailan immediately struggled and shouted with all her might, "Run! You idiot! What are you doing here? Don't you know how to call the police? She asked you to come, so you came. Run. Run back immediately." Chapter 1640. A low growl was heard. It was a man's voice. Zhang Jincheng. Bailan panicked and shouted anxiously, "I'm fine, Bailan, don't worry. I'm fine." Zhang Jincheng's voice was extremely weak. When they kidnapped Bailan, he had fought with them with all his might. Although he was a member of the basketball team and had a better physique than them, a fierce tiger could not fight against a pack of wolves. How could 2 fists fight against 4 hands? Moreover, there were more than 10 of them, and they were all armed. By the time he defeated 3 or 4 of them, he was already riddled with injuries. In the end, all he could do was protect Bailan with all his might, and try his best not to let her get hurt. Just now, he had used up the last of his energy to turn their bodies to the back of Bailan, while his calf was hit hard by that woman. The bones in his calf were probably broken. Basketball, he might not be able to play in the future. But the moment the pain spread throughout his entire body, the first thought that came to his mind was, luckily she was not the one in pain. Ha, you're really a Casanova. The woman laughed sarcastically. Zhang Jincheng spat out the blood in his mouth and said, maybe I stayed with Snake for too long and didn't learn basketball skills. I learned some infatuation. I'm not a Casanova. But as long as I, Zhang Jincheng, am still breathing, I will not let you hurt a single hair on Bailan. The woman paused when she heard Snake's name. Then, she gritted her teeth and turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. Her gaze was colder than a poisonous scorpion's. The person in Snake's heart. Since he dotes on you so much, why did he let you come here alone? Ha, I think you're just so. As the woman spoke, she walked towards Gu Mengmeng. She dragged the wooden stick on the ground and made a slight scraping sound. Gu Mengmeng did not waste her 5 years in the beast world. Her background might not be as good as the orcs, but against the modern people, even a boxing champion might not have much chance of winning against her. After all, her sparring partners in the beast world were all ferocious beasts who were kings of the mountains. However, before they started fighting, Gu Mengmeng felt that there was a need to clarify some questions. So she retracted her gaze from Bailan and looked at the woman approaching her. She asked calmly, "But who are you?" The woman paused and stared at Gu Mengmeng in disbelief. She realized that Gu Mengmeng had a blank and calm look on her face, and it was obvious that she really did not know her. Ha. Ha ha. Who am I? You ruined my family, and now you're asking me who I am? Ha ha ha. What could be more cruel than someone who was so jealous that they almost became a demon? But the other party didn't even remember who you were. Me? Gu Mengmeng pointed at her own nose, feeling wronged. She had just transmigrated back this morning, and had been attending classes in the morning. In the afternoon, she went to the club with Snakel. She had just returned home when she was called here before even entering the house. She did not mind destroying the family of this woman who had hurt Bailan, but she needed time to work on the case. Gu Mengmeng, go and die, you should go and die. As the woman said that, she suddenly pounced towards Gu Mengmeng and smashed the wooden stick in her hand down. Gu Mengmeng tilted her body and easily dodged the woman's attack. Having seen so many fights between Elvis and Snakel, this woman's movements were as slow as a snail's. Gu Mengmeng kicked the woman's ankle with one foot and grabbed her wrist with the other. She twisted it hard and the wooden stick in the woman's hand fell to the ground. Aside from the topic, clap for student Xiaozhan. Bravery does not mean that you are invincible. It means that even though you are clearly afraid, you still stood in front of me to protect me. Chapter 1641. Gu Mengmeng caught the wooden stick and slung it over her shoulder. As she smiled sideways, the woman fell to the ground like a dog eating **T. Gu Mengmeng even gave her a person with a wicked sense of humor. Bam! Ah! The woman screamed. She covered her wound with one hand and curled up on the ground, not daring to move. Yes, her wrist holding the wooden stick was crushed by Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng really did not do it on purpose. She just wanted to snatch the wooden stick from her hand, but, she did not control her strength properly. This was an accident, really an accident. But even though it was an accident, Gu Mengmeng did not feel apologetic. She had beaten up Bailan and Zhang Jincheng so badly. Even if she killed her now, it would not be enough to appease her hatred. What more breaking a wrist? After fiddling with the wooden stick for a while, Gu Mengmeng felt bored and directly threw it out of the windowsill. A wave of scolding came from downstairs. Gu Mengmeng thought, she might have hit the one on the lookout downstairs. This was just a coincidence, really. Even if she had aimed, she would not have been able to throw it so accurately. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. Then, She walked towards Bailan and Zhang Jincheng, wanting to undo the metal chains binding them. Bailan was so shocked by Gu Mingming's move that she could not speak for a long time. When she saw that crazy woman pouncing towards Gu Mingming, her heart almost jumped out of her throat. But seeing how Gu Mingming easily neutralized the woman's attack and flipped her over in the blink of an eye, Bailan finally heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at Gu Mingming, who was walking towards her, and said, "You're really good. You hid your strength well. Even I was fooled." Gu Mingming smiled without saying a word. How was she going to explain? Say that she had transmigrated to another world and lived with werewolves, foxes and snakes for a few years, so her skills improved by leaps and bounds, comparable to Tarzan of the Apes? As long as Bailan was not crazy, she would not believe it. Chick. Gu Mingming had just touched the metal chains when a ruffian's voice sounded from behind her. Gu Mingming turned back. The scene was rather unbearable. The woman whose wrist was crushed by Gu Mingming was dragged behind a barrel of gasoline to perform some indescribable acts. The man would pinch her injured wrist from time to time, and become even more excited as he listened to her miserable cries. The man who called out to Gu Mingming seemed to be used to it. But when he saw Gu Mingming's gaze, he scolded in a joking manner. "Tisk, can't you wait till you are done with your business before getting high? You can't even hold it in for a while, trash." "Brother Ming, it's time for him to eat," so he added some food. "Don't bother about them, let's get down to business." A lackey came forward and whispered into Brother Ming's ear, "Is it time for dinner?" "It's only 5 o'clock. What time for dinner?" Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment. Then she saw the strange expression on the man's face and understood. He was a drug addict. Brother Ming seemed to have expected this to happen. He ignored the lackeys and directly said to Gu Mingming, "Girl, we just want money, not lives. We have no intention of meddling in the grievances between you and that slut. We just want to make friends with you and borrow some money to spend." An old line of blackmail. TSK, what era was this? Korean dramas were already about amnesia, car accidents and leukemia. Yet they still wanted to make friends and borrow some money? Not even changing their tactics. Chapter 1642. Once Gu Mingming said that, Brother Ming started laughing. His laugh was rather wretched, as if he was laughing at Gu Mingming's innocence and ignorance. "What can I do? I, your brother, still want to be friends with you." As Brother Ming said, he walked towards Gu Mingming. His face was clearly shriveled up, obviously influenced by the person beside him who was having a meal and had some lewd thoughts. Whether she could defeat this Brother Ming was one thing, but to fight against him was another. Gu Mingming was especially aware of how sensitive the noses of the few people in her family were. If she was stained with the scent of another man, they could destroy the earth. So Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly and said, "I really can't stop you if you want to die." With that, Gu Mingming punched her own collarbone hard, then grabbed her chest and twisted her ear. Brother Ming looked at Gu Mingming and thought that she was crazy, so he was stunned for a moment. But before he could react, a white light suddenly flashed beside Gu Mingming and 3 ferocious beasts appeared. A huge black wolf opened its mouth wide and bared its fangs at them. Its green eyes were filled with bloodlust and cruelty. A snake as thick as a train's skin crushed the ground of the villa and broke through the roof. Its huge body circled around the villa, and all of them were trapped by the snake's body. Snake scales glowed faintly in green light all around them, and the sound of friction made one's hair stand on end. The few men were so scared that they fell to the ground. The more timid ones peed their pants on the spot. And that innocent little person was nestled in the tail of a white and fluffy fox. She looked like a soul-seducing dodgy, smiling like a flower as she watched Baigan's heart being gouged out. "See, I told you. My man doesn't like me to be friends with other men. You just had to throw yourself at him. It won't be easy even if one wants to spare your life." Gu Mingming stood up from Li's arms and patted his back. "Help me put them down first, then use the fox's seductive fragrance to make them forget what they saw today." Li nodded. Then he waved his large tail and transformed into a human in front of everyone, leaving only one hand that looked like a fox's claw. With a wave, The metal chains were cut apart like tofu skin that could not withstand a single blow. Leah quickly untied the ropes on Bai Lan and Zhang Jincheng, then followed Gu Mingming's instructions, and used the fox's seductive fragrance to hypnotize them. Seeing that Leah had transformed into a human, Brother Meng was the first to react. He ran backwards in fear. Mother! Monster! Gu Mingming turned back and looked at the person who was still swaggering around. She chuckled and said, Demon? You knew they were monsters, yet you still shouted? If you shout so loudly, do you think you can run away? Brother Meng was as cowardly as a dog. He knelt down in front of Gu Mingming and kowtowed. Great aunt, my dear great aunt. Spare me. We just wanted to get some money to spend. The idea was all that slut mo funds. She wanted to kidnap your friends to force you out. Then, all the injuries on my friends were caused by her alone. Gu Mingming looked down at him and asked coldly. Chapter 1643. Leah did not do anything else in Europe for the past week, just researching on medical skills. He knew that he had to wait for Gu Mingming to find him or call him over, but if he did nothing and just waited, he would go crazy, so he shifted all his attention to his studies. He did not allow himself to have a moment of leisure, which resulted in the results of his 7 days of study being very obvious. Coupled with his own medical foundation, he quickly diagnosed Zhang Jincheng's injuries. It's not convenient for me to check on that little female, but this male, his leg is broken, 4 of his ribs are broken, his head is obviously injured, there are 27 external injuries on his body and 19 bruises. Using your words here, it's called a body with cuts and bruises all over, right? Gu Mingming chuckled. Good, very good. Gu Mingming waved at Elvis, calling him to her side. She wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck gently. You don't have to do anything to these trash. Even biting them to death would dirty your mouth. Yes, yes, yes. Great aunt, you're really right. Brother Meng had long been scared out of his wits by Elvis's green eyes. The pressure from staring at a ferocious beast was really not something to joke about. Gu Mingming pointed at the few people lying on the ground. The few of you, listen up. Out of everyone here, I will only allow one person to leave alive. You guys do as you see fit. Upon hearing that, the gangsters only took 2 to 3 seconds to react. They then immediately picked up their weapons and attacked the people around them. This was human. In front of a strong enemy, they would never unite as one. They did not even dare to attack Elvis, Snake and the rest. They immediately brandished their weapons and attacked their equally weak companions. Gu Mingming laughed coldly. She had respect for human lives, but survival of the fittest, the winner gets to eat alone. She was no longer the Gu Mingming who had just arrived in the beast world, who would value life regardless of right or wrong. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If people offend me, I'll eliminate them completely. The gangsters, who were in a frenzy of killing, each attack was more ruthless than the previous one. After about 20 minutes, the scene where there were more than 10 people just now had turned into a bloody mess. He looked at Gu Mingming and said, I survived, can I go now? Gu Mingming recognized him. He was the lackey who had been following Brother Meng just now. He seemed to have a good relationship with Brother Meng, so Brother Meng trusted him very much. When the fight started, he even stuck his back to him, planning to work together to save his life. But Brother Meng definitely didn't expect that the first blow that landed on his head was from his lackey. Gu Mingming nodded and made a pleased gesture. The lackey took 2 steps back and stopped beside Snake's body. He turned around and looked at Gu Mingming with a face full of blood. Gu Mingming smiled. Snake. Snake transformed into a human lazily and walked to Gu Mingming's side. He wiped her little face and said, That's it? You've called out the 3 beast kings, but you won't let us take action? Gu Mingming smiled and said, They are too dirty. I can't bear to dirty your hands. Elvis also transformed into a human and carried her up from the ground. I felt the pain from the mark and thought something had happened to you. Chapter 1644. Yes, summon. a special ability possessed by the partner of a beast king. When the female felt extreme fear, or when the mating mark was attacked, no matter where the partner of a beast king was, he would be summoned to the female's side by the mating mark. And this buff was activated when Gu Mengmeng stepped down as the messenger of the beast deity. Every messenger of the beast deity could leave behind a buff for the beast world when she stepped down to become a beast deity. And the one Wang Xiaoxin left behind back then allowed the males of a beast king level to enter the dreamland. It went without saying who she was waiting for. And Gu Mengmeng's buff was Li's idea. Because Wang Xiaoxin's departure took away all the additional abilities from Gu Mengmeng. She was a weak little female and needed protection. And the three of them were too afraid of any accidents happening to Gu Mengmeng. So Li's suggestion was unanimously approved by the males in the family. And Gu Mengmeng herself did not have any special thoughts, so she went along with them. But she did not expect that the ultimate move that she did not use in the beast world would be used on a few hooligans. But it did not matter. After all, she could save on 2 plane tickets. Elvis was appeased by Gu Mengmeng's "I miss you." He kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face, then pointed at the fainted group and asked, "How do we deal with them? They look like they are still breathing. Do we need to bite them to death?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "No need, just call the police." Elvis nodded and did not say a word, just accompanying Gu Mengmeng to sit at the side. At this moment, Gregory flew in from the window with a huge box in his hands. Gu Mengmeng looked at Gregory confused. Gregory handed the box to Snake, who opened it to reveal that it was filled to the brim with US dollars. Gu Mengmeng was flabbergasted. "This?" Snake threw the box to the side, then stroked Gu Mengmeng's hair and said, "Since you don't wish to dirty our hands, then we can only let them receive the legal punishment of the human world. After all, those who offended my Tuming cannot be let off easily no matter what." So, Snake gently pinched Gu Mengmeng's little face and said, "They kidnapped by Lan and Zhang Jincheng. The police can verify the process by investigating the surveillance cameras along the way. Then he would call you and threaten you to come alone. This is also very simple. Just check the call records. I called you here to extort money from you. After all, you are the CEO of Monsieur Group and the future daughter-in-law of the royal family of F country. You are very valuable. That's why I'm here to deliver the money. It's a pity that they couldn't divide the spoils evenly and had internal strife." Gu Mengmeng laughed softly. "This box of money is the evidence." Snakel smiled and nodded. "My father made it very clear before he left. Whoever dares to bully you will be challenging the dignity of the F country's royal family and destroying the diplomatic relations between the two countries." Gu Mengmeng said, "What if they tell others that they saw you guys transform?" Snake's eyes flashed and he laughed. "If this gets out, people will only think that they overdosed on drugs and hallucinated, right? Tell me, if you were a police officer, would you believe the crazy words of a kidnapper and drug addict?" Chapter 1645. To be honest, as a modern local, Gu Mengmeng was not as knowledgeable as an outsider like Snake. Or rather, Gu Mengmeng was a commoner living at the bottom of society. Even if she was as scheming as Snake, she would not be able to produce such a huge box of US dollars as evidence. She would also not be able to use the word diplomatic relations to force the government to settle this matter according to their wishes. All the hooligans would not be able to escape from forced detoxification and jail time. But Gu Mengmeng's gaze landed on the woman who was curled up behind the barrel of gasoline. Her body was covered in bruises and her clothes could not cover her body. Her messy hair and bloodstains at the corner of her lips were all signs of what she had just experienced. The wrist that was crushed by Gu Mengmeng was dangling at a weird angle on her knee. Her pupils were dilated, and it was obvious that she was frightened by the scene just now. Come to think of it, if it was anyone else, they would also be frightened. Didn't Gu Mengmeng faint on the spot the first time she saw Snake's original body? As for this woman, she had seen the main bodies of all 3 orcs at once without any warning. She was already very courageous to just stand there blankly and not die on the spot. "You don't remember her?" Snake followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and asked. Gu Mengmeng did not answer Snake's question. Instead, she turned to look at Snake and asked in confusion, "Should I know her?" Snake chuckled and said, "You must not have been paying attention when you were watching television with Wang Xiaoxin." Gu Mingming's face was wooden and she did not reply. Snake said, "During the gathering after the press conference, the one who locked you in the toilet and splashed a basin of water on you." Yes, Snake had completely forgotten about the incident where Gu Mingming straddled her and slapped her. He only remembered that this woman bullied his Tumeng. Now that Snake mentioned it, Gu Mingming remembered that it had indeed happened. But, she was the one who provoked me first. I only slapped her a few times. Did she have to kidnap Bailan to kill me? Gu Mingming was confused. Snake took out his cell phone from his pocket and opened a few popular news websites. He searched for news related to the MO group and passed it to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming swiped her cell phone twice and her facial features turned on the emoji pack mode. She grimaced as she read a few of the headlines, then looked at Snake and asked, "These were made by you?" Snake shook his head, determined not to take the blame. "It's not me, it's the assistant who did it. But the result is still satisfactory. This assistant can be promoted, get a raise and get a good car." Gu Mingming rubbed her temples, feeling a headache coming on. How should I put it? It wasn't that she was a saint, but at the end of the day, this young lady of the MO family was just a little arrogant and willful. She had poured a basin of water over her head, that was all. Moreover, she immediately fought back. Strictly speaking, she really did not suffer any losses. It was indeed wrong of MO Fun to capture Bailan and Zhang Jincheng and beat them up, but it was also because of Snake's ruthlessness. No one could say who was right and who was wrong. It was a complete mess. Chapter 1646. You want me to repay evil with good? But Tumeng, repay evil with good. How can I repay good? Snake's face was cold. He was not willing to let off anyone who dared to provoke Gu Mingming. He could not even bear to touch a finger on the person he cherished dearly. So how could she be bullied by others? Yes, the one in the toilet was not the real Gu Mingming, but an illusory image. But the illusory image was also Snake's illusory image. She was the treasure he cherished dearly, and anyone who dared to touch her would die. Elvis was also in the illusion when Gu Mingming was drenched in water. He had accompanied Gu Mingming to the end, so he knew what had happened. When Snake reminded Gu Mingming who that woman was, Elvis's face darkened. The two males who had been fighting for the position of the first partner for so many years actually reached a high level of tacit understanding and unity on this matter. I feel that Snake is right, Xiaomeng. Being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. If you don't remove the roots, the weeds will grow again. Gu Mingming suddenly felt very helpless. The cause of this incident was just MO Fan being cheap. She clearly had a fiancé, but still had her sights set on Snake, so she drenched Gu Mingming with water. This kind of method used by junior high school students to ostracize their female classmates could not even be considered as childish, let alone bullying. Even if they really bullied Gu Mingming, the MO family had already paid a sufficient price. If they continued to force her, the news tomorrow would probably be Old Master MO jumping off a building. Gu Mingming cast her gaze at Leah. Leah smiled knowingly and waved his large tail. Did you all not understand Gu Mingming's meaning? Elvis and Snake glanced sideways at Leah. They had no choice even if they did not want to admit it. Among the four males in the family, Leah was the one who was the best at understanding Gu Mingming's thoughts. Leah swayed his large tail as he walked to Gu Mingming's side. As he placed his tail into her arms, he smiled slyly at MO Fun and said, "That MO family should have been completely suppressed by you to the point where they have nowhere else to go, unable to withstand a single blow, and are just waiting for death? They must have lost all hope and given up struggling, waiting for death to come." Snake nodded. The Fan family was the last hope of the MO family, but what Fan Yuanbin did was too extreme. That was practically the last straw that broke the camel's back. Now the MO family was just waiting for death as Leah had described. Even if there was still half a day of hope, MO Fan wouldn't dare to do such a thing. This was clearly an act of mutual destruction. Stupid, but also sad. Leah shrugged his shoulders, as if he had thought of something interesting. He continued, "They want to die, so you let them die." Could it be that after following Meng Meng as a beast god for a few years, you've really become a god who loves the world and is compassionate? Snake paused for a moment and suddenly smiled. The corners of his lips curled upwards as he said, "You bullied my Tumeng. Do you want to die? How can it be that cheap?" Elvis did not understand, and just frowned at the two sinister people in front of him. After a moment of silence, he said, "You two are in charge of coming up with ideas. I am only in charge of executing." Snake looked at Elvis and said, "You don't have to do anything, that little assistant of mine is quite capable." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.